year, there hasn't been a general tuition increase allowed. I believe that goes back to, if my memory's correct, the fall of 14 was the last time that we had a rate adjustment. So we're going on the 5th year now, not having any increase in undergrad tuition. And that's concerning not just Wright State, but all public universities, because we have natural inflationary costs that we deal with. And so it's really, I think, hurt higher education to be able to find ways to offset, these inflationary increases without having an ability to increase tuition to keep up with the inflation.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I would be in favor of delegating that responsibility to the president to make that determination. I don't know, Bruce, Grace, or anyone else did. You're fine with it?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Okay. When I look at the resolution, I mean, it looks like we are, okay, so we are delegating the authority there, so. All right, so why don't I offer this, and then if we approve it in committee, then it will move to the full board. So, let me just read it real quickly. Whereas under revised code 3345.48, Wright State University established the Wright Guaranteed Tuition Program beginning with the academic year 2018-19, and whereas under the revised code section 3345.48, the university may make amendments to the program document to clarify provisions within the document subject to final approval by the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Education, and whereas revised code 3345.48 states that tuition fees and rate increases may be increased one time per subsequent cohort by the sum of the 60-month rate of inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index, plus the percentage amount increase authorized by the General Assembly for the applicable fiscal year. And whereas the one-time tuition rate increase for subsequent cohort group 2 needs to be established once the percentage amount increase authorized by the General Assembly for fiscal year 2019-2020 is determined. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees adopts the amended Wright Guaranteed Tuition Program document subject to final approval by the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Education attached as Exhibit A, and be it further resolved that the Wright State University Board of Trustees delegates authority to the President of Wright State University to establish final tuition rates for subsequent cohort group 2 not to exceed the 60-month rate of inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index, currently at 1.5%, plus the percentage amount increase authorized by the General Assembly for the 2019-2020 fiscal year, as footnoted in Exhibit B attached, subject to the final review by the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Education. And be it further resolved that the Resident Services proposed 2019-2020 room rate for subsequent cohort group 2 is approved by the Board of Trustees, subject to a final review by the Chancellor, Ohio Department of Education, attached as Exhibit C. Be it further resolved that the proposed 2019-2020 meal plan for subsequent cohort group 2 is approved by the Board of Trustees, subject to a final review by the Chancellor, Ohio Department of Education, as attached to Exhibit D. And be it further resolved that the university is authorized to make future modifications to the Wright Guaranteed Tuition Program document to provide for the effective and efficient administration of the program, subject to compliance within the requirements of the Ohio Revised Code 3345.48. To move this resolution to the public session for a vote, a motion and a second are needed. I offer this motion. Do I have a second? So this moves to the full board for consideration. All right, next up we have capital projects, of which I believe there is one. Waltz?
Correct. Thanks, Sean. So we're bringing to the Finance Audit and Infrastructure Committee one capital project today that can be approved within the authority limit given to this committee. and that is the University Archives relocation phase 1. This is a project we've talked about. It's been on the radar screen over and over several times. Just to kind of review the project, what this would do is move the existing archives from the library, the 4th floor of the library, to this facility. It's important because the archives, which is a very valuable collection for us and needs public access, is really, I would almost call it threatened on the 4th floor of the library. The library lacks fire suppression, it lacks secure storage, it lacks proper humidity controls, and it is prone to insect infestation.
So you couldn't even have any humans in there.
I have a concern with what you just said. What do you mean by insect infestation?
Bugs.
No, but bed bugs. I mean, what are you talking about?
Let me ask the folks from the library to make a comment. Come on over.
Yeah, what critters are in the library?
I'm a student studying the library. I shouldn't be.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dawn Dewey. I'm head of.
The microphone.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dawn Dewey. I'm head of the archives. The environmental conditions for the archives in the current building, we don't have proper temperature and humidity controls. We have noticed infestations of insects at times. These are critters that damage paper, photographs, and so forth that chew up the volumes we have. It's not a severe problem, but it is a potentially severe problem. We go through different cycles when different insects and bugs come into the library during different times of the year. HVAC systems are not, we can't control temperature and humidity in the spaces that we're in. And we also have difficulties with the HVAC system itself spewing out dust and particles and so forth that damage the materials and lessen their lifespan.
I have a question. If it's so damaging to paper and everything, why would we have a library? It seems like we're putting it in the worst place possible.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem to me you would want to leave it there and correct the issue of HVAC and so forth, and fire suppression in that area anyway. And also, when you think about it, you're talking about $450,000. We've asked for a space planning project for many months. And I think before we go spend $450,000, we should have the space plan.
Well,
I'd hate to put it here and then someone change their mind, we're gonna do something somewhere else.
But Bruce, this money was specifically raised by the foundation for the archives. So
That's fine, but it's a one-time spend that we're gonna get advantage of,
we can't
do it the right way.
Yeah, no, we can't go spend it somewhere else though.
No, I understand that, but can we go spend the $450 and put it in the library and keep the archives there? I don't know,
Yeah.
because it sounds like the library's got a whole host of issues anyway.
So one of the things I'd like to point out is that the archives is actually in 2 different locations. And so there is a potential for mold and other situations, particularly in the second location beyond the library. And for those of you who are familiar with the library, the archives is up on the 4th floor. And it is open to the atrium, and that's a big issue with regard to the temperature and the humidity, which does threaten the lifetime of the archives. This facility here actually has the ability with the existing HVAC, my understanding, to be able to address those issues without a big investment in that per se. My understanding as well is that there's the ability to move into the space that's freed up, other central activities that are not library and paper related. So we'll actually be using as a way to develop some of our talent and also online and other facilities. So there is a plan, for what would happen with the space that's freed up.
And also to answer Bruce's question, I'll let Rob chime in here, but we have looked at modifying that facility, and my understanding is it's more expensive to modify that than it would be to create the same space here.
Yeah, in general, the archives require much more finite control over temperature and humidity than what would be ordinarily required in a library or any other given office situation. So to adapt the library to meet those specific would be a substantial cost.
You're saying this facility has that control?
Yes.
Well, we'll have after you do the renovation.
Yeah, this facility actually has humidification on it. We just need to repair it and get it directed in the right places. That is something that I understand the library does not have. And adding humidification to HVAC systems is a costly proposition.
Well, I think it brings up another concern for the board, which is we have a lot of students in the library and there's no fire suppression. That's a problem.
Yeah, fire suppression at the time the library was built was not a code requirement. It still isn't a code requirement.
Not the point though. The point is safety of the students.
Correct.
I guess I don't think we should-
Microphone.
No, we step back.
Nobody can hear you.
I know my voice is weakening. We have many times talked about space planning because we spread out and everything's spread out through off the main campus. And I don't know if we've really done that study when you bring that up, because we've talked about it and we've talked about the empty space, and I think they even gave us a percentage at one time of what was empty space. And I think we have to reassess that when we're talking about investing this money. It's a one-time grant, isn't it? I don't know, but I think so. So we use up this money that ties our hands in, or not ties our hands, but limits our ability to do anything else. So I would like to see that we're really assessing the space that we have, because I don't know what percentage of this building is used. Maybe that's a factor, I don't know. I don't know is the problem. I don't know about the space usage at the main campus. So I had the same reservation of doing, and especially when I hear these other things. Archives are very valuable, so are lives, and so are the other books and all the investment we have in that library.
I think they actually belong in the library. The other issue would come up is if we put the archives over here, that means people have to come over here to access it rather than being in the library where you think the archive would be. Right? So it kind of just doesn't feel right.
What's traditional at other universities? They have such a substantial archives. Where is it located relative to the campus?
Archives across the country and other universities can be within the library, but they're often a standalone special library with additional facilities. And I want to stress, it's not just for the protection of the collections, but it's for outreach, for the use of the faculty, the students, and the community. And that's why this facility offers so much for that. If we remain in the library, we will not have the kinds of facilities that we need to provide wider access and more thorough access to our researchers, our faculty, our students, the university itself, and the wider community. So across the country, there are different models. Ohio State, for instance, has separate standalone archive facilities. Other universities have done the same thing. They can be a facility that's a magnet for recruiting students and faculty and international researchers and so forth. So there are different models across the country.
This says the $450,000 will serve as a seed. As additional funds are raised, subsequent phases of space improvement will be scoped going forward. So this is just the first phase. This is a prefab for a prefabrication of this building, this floor right here. Okay.
Correct.
So if I can add as well, parking is an issue with where the archives is right now, in particular with outreach folks coming in and finding their way to the fourth floor of the library. Here it's much easier access as well. In addition, there's the ability to almost triple the space that the archives has, and currently the archives is reaching a point where it no longer is able to accept additional collections. because it is limited in space. And so this provides that opportunity to continue to grow the collections. We do have, my understanding, about 400 collections that are aircraft related. And many other archives and sources look to this, to the archives at Wright State to be the place where these things are. And it would be unfortunate if we were to reach a point where we were not able to accommodate really one of the leading collections in the nation.
Does anybody have an estimate of the value of the collections as it stands now?
We update our values every year for risk management, and I think our collections are probably, the estimated value is on the low side. If we actually went out and had them all appraised, it would be close to $15 to $20 million. It's based on market value of those collections.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I can make a comment, please. First of all, Don, to your team, thank you for what you've done the last few years to address what I consider to be a significant problem. We have a national treasure, and to my other trustee, I'd say it's priceless. If you've actually gone through and looked at what we have, your national treasure is one of a kind that we cannot afford to lose. I believe it's not just a matter of protection, but it is accessibility. As the chairman of the National Aviation Alliance, I can tell you that at least the people involved in aviation history in the community are fully supportive of the accessibility that this would offer by having it in this building. So, maybe the lone voice in the wilderness, but I think what you've done, as I've watched this for 3 years, is put together a very sound plan for protecting and accessibility. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would add on to that, we took this vision out to donors and we said, here's what we're gonna do. And we raised $450,000 to do it. And, I think we should do it. That's what we raised the money for. This is the vision that we gave them when we asked them for their money.
And I would add, I think the questions about the space are very good questions. They're very appropriate questions. When we look at our overall space, we are currently in the process, and I can't quantify this with square footage numbers, but as we look at our sites across Dayton, we are pulling things back into this area and into the main part of campus. Again, I can't quantify those, but when you look particularly at all the space over here that people are very appropriately concerned about, we do see this filling up over time. From the library standpoint and from the archive standpoint, as I think about this and think about the long-term campus and think about doing a space study, the 4th floor of the library is in the heart of campus where we really ought to, I don't want to say this, have an amazing number of people to go there. I think we could get better use out of that space for the whole campus. And no offense to the archives, but then we do with the archives. So I think we could drive more traffic. We could have a higher traffic use in that area than we have right now. And pulling the archives over here also, as others have said, really gets access to the public, which is important.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a win-win, right? We get that space freed up on campus for on-campus type activities. We use this space for the archives, and that gives more access to people who would have problems driving and parking on campus and so on. And we also fulfill the vision that we laid out for the donors, and this is the donors' money that we're talking about spending here. And we fulfill the mission that General Moore laid out, which is to really protect this national treasure that we have. So. I would suggest that we take it to a vote unless there's further debate.
Well, I'll just be frank, I'm only gonna vote yes if we get a date when we're gonna have a space plan, because I've been asking for it for a year. So we need a space plan. We've got empty space all over campus. We got other places that are so crowded. We still have classrooms that professors think it's only for them and no one else can use them. So all of that needs to be changed, and we keep talking about it, but we don't do anything about it. So it's time for action. So who wants to take on space planning and get a date?
Well, we'll take on space planning, I'm a little hesitant to give a date. Rob?
Who wants to take ownership of getting a date? Wesker?
I'll take ownership of getting a date.
Okay, so when
Absolutely.
can you give us a date?
Next
good.
meeting, or sooner.
I'm sorry?
Next meeting or sooner,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
I guess if I could add too as well, in terms of the space planning, it really makes sense that follows the strategic plan. And so that is something that has been, on the docket for this year as the strategic plan is wrapping up.
Yeah, and I think we're all in agreement on the need for space planning. Okay, so let me offer this resolution. Whereas construction and renovation projects with a total project budget between $250,000 and $500,000 require the approval of the Finance, Audit, and Infrastructure Committee. And whereas funds for the University Archive Project Phase 1 have been raised by the WSU Foundation, and the project is budgeted at $450,000. And on completion, will provide University Archives more suitable and appropriate space for the storage, maintenance, and presentation of special collections. And whereas in compliance with Section K of the Finance Governance Policy, 100% of project funding is in hand prior to the beginning of the capital project. Therefore, be it resolved that the Finance, Audit, and Infrastructure Committee of the Wright State Board of Trustees authorizes receipt of appropriate bids or proposals and authorizes the president or her designee to accept and award contracts within the total identified budget. I offer this motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Mr. Landos,
Yes.
Ms. Ramos, motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, we will move to our executive session. And do we have the resolution that takes us to executive session? We don't have it memorized.
Sorry, what'd you ask?
Oh, we need to go to executive session now, but there's a specific. Okay, yep. Resolved that the Wright State University Finance, Audit, and Infrastructure Committee agreed to hold executive session on Friday, November 16th, 2018. And be it further resolved that pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, the following issues may be discussed in executive session: personnel matters, employment and compensation, matters required to be kept confidential by state or federal statute. I offer this motion. Is there a second? Roll call vote.
Mr. Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Mr. Landos,
Yes.
Ms. Ramos,
Okay.
Bridges,
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
Mr. Becker,
Yes.
General Moore.
Yes.
Gentlemen?
Motion passes.
Okay, without objection then, we stand in recess to return to committee day in the first floor gallery, please.
Executive.
Like, they send a lot of money to people. That's what stupid it is. That's impossible to
Okay, here we go. Call to order the, Student Affairs and Athletics Committee meeting. And the first thing I'll do is read the conflict of interest statement. It is of utmost importance to ensure that all university decisions are free from any real or perceived conflicts of interest. Therefore, please be mindful of all obligations with which you have been charged as a trustee of Wright State University, and take the steps you deem appropriate to perform your duties fairly and impartially. Since we're a little bit too short on time, we'll just skip and get right down to the student government. And I have here the report first. Thank you, Daniel and Adrian.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for having us here today. It's our pleasure. We also have a special guest here with us, my chief staff, Ivan Mallet. He's been working on a project this year that we'll get into in a second, and I'll kind of explain why he's here, why there's the significance of it. So, happy to be here. There we go. So, just again, we're here to engage the student body, advocate for their concerns, empower student leadership, and connect the community here at Wright State. So that's our mission, and I think we've been doing a pretty good job of that this year. We've had a wide array of projects that we've been doing, and we're going to talk to you about those today. So the reason Ivan's here is he's a sergeant in the United States Army, and he was actually deployed to Guantanamo Bay about 2 or 3 years ago. And so one of the big things is for our administration this year is trying to connect the military populations here on campus with the average student and get them more engaged. And so I'm just going to talk about one of the projects that we've been working with athletics and the Nutter Center on. So Ivan, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Daniel. So what we're trying to do is install a POW MIA Chair of Honor in the Nutter Center. It's been done at a number of universities and public stadiums across the United States. And essentially what it is, it's just a vacant seat that stands to symbolize that there is a place waiting here at Wright State for all of those that have gone missing in action or become prisoners of war. Since World War I, there's been about 92,000 Americans that have fallen into one of those two categories. And so right now we have a dedication ceremony. We've worked with athletics, and it's going to be January 26th. And I really have to thank Dr. Seth Gordon of the BMC, as well as the 18th Intelligence Squadron at Wright Pat Air Force Base for donating the money for this to be possible. Daniel had actually reached out on social media, and within just a couple hours, we were able to raise all the money necessary for this project. So thank you again for that, Daniel.
Yeah,
Well, if I can just say thank you for your service. And congratulations on being able to raise that money.
Yeah, it's a really neat project. We'll be having a dedication ceremony as well. We'll be inviting members of the community. And so we'll be sitting, when you walk in the Nutter Center at the handicap section to the very right, it'll be on a platform so you can see it from the entire Nutter Center. And then we also will have a dedication plaque as well that will be with the chair. So it'll be really, really nice. At the ceremony, we've been working with the ROTC detachment to have them do a table setting ceremony as well, further symbolizing that they're always welcome here when they return home. So it's a really cool project. So moving on, we'll be hosting the Ohio Student Government Association annual summit here at Wright State on December 1st. This is a collection of all the 14 public student governments in the state of Ohio. We'll be talking about a lot of legislative actions, how we can get best practices to implement here at Wright State, and the whole 9 yards. So we're really excited to kind of brag about our campus when they come here. We'll be in the student union, and we would love to have anyone here come and talk for a couple minutes if you want. So we will send out the information to everyone and see if you're available. It'll be December 1st from 10 to 4, and it'll be in the student union. So just a couple other things we've been working on this year. The Raider Ride, we've been trying to work with Physical Plant and a couple other groups on campus to reroute one of the routes to include members of our campus community who live in the dorms. It is a pretty long walk, and it's pretty cold outside, as evidenced by yesterday. So we're trying to work with that. Instead of from it going from lot 20 directly to Millette, having them reroute one time to the dorms to get students here, one time an hour. It seems like it's going to be able to work. It's going to be neutral on cost, and so we're trying to really work on that. We're also going to be doing a Thanksgiving banner in the student union for students to write what they're thankful for. Just yesterday, Adrian and I had the pleasure of talking to a member of our own student government, and just realizing the struggles that they went through, simple things as far as they don't have enough money for new gloves for their wheelchair. So, really put things into perspective of how good we truly do have it, and people across the table from us may be struggling. And so to really write down what we're thankful for, and just also be more cognizant of the people who we surround ourselves with, to make sure that they get the help that they need. And so we've been really working on that. We're also doing a Raider Hands Don't Haze. Wright State Greek life is tremendous on campus, and so what we're going to be doing in one of the tunnels is having students put their hand on the wall and paint, and have them sign it pledging that they will not haze ever as a Raider, and then just really further embedding that in our tradition as Wright State Raiders. And then lastly, we're really looking at a common hour to be implemented. It was one of the initiatives on the strategic planning process to have an hour where students can have meetings. It's just no classes are scheduled over it, so we're really looking at that. And then also lastly, we're doing a coat drive. We're going to be coordinating with all these student organizations on campus to collect coats for members of our campus community that cannot afford them. We also have a lot of international students that come from places that they don't need a coat, and so giving them those resources so they can be comfortable walking from their residence to school. So Adrian will kind of talk about some of the things we've been doing in the Senate as well.
So a big thing we've been working on this year is bringing an undergraduate EMS program to Wright State. Many of you know UD has a phenomenal program, one of the best in the country, and for a lot of pre-health students, this will be a great opportunity to get experience, gain skills, and partner with local fire departments and use some of the skills that they can learn in that. We're working on a mentorship program where business students in the Rochester College of Business can receive free housing for students that are eligible, and they will be able to mentor incoming students and provide them the resources that they need for that. We're doing a mid-semester evaluation form, especially for university college students, to ensure that the process of picking their major is going well and that they're receiving the resources they need. A commuter students association for commuter students, a large part of our population, to ensure that they are aware of different timelines, housing events that are going on in the area. We actually were going to do a voting drive, things like that. Retain the 9 initiative, I know I spoke to you guys about that a couple months ago. Basically, attacking Wright State's retention rate for minority students and ensuring that minority students who are coming on campus receive all the things they need: financial literacy, cultural acclimation when they come to college, different things like that. And I'll let Daniel speak on the campus engagement project.
Adrian, what's a DSAP?
Dean Student Advisory Board.
There you go.
Yeah.
You speak in acronyms.
And then lastly, we're looking into the possibility also of an independent recreational facility. We're conducting research on that still and looking where we can help boost student engagement on campus. We believe that's an integral part of that. So also, as you know, Adrian and I like visiting Columbus. So it's lame duck session, so all bets are off. One bill we're really looking at is partnering with Representative Promise. This is student government related. There is a bill that would give students in-state tuition, military dependents in-state tuition as soon as they come to school here. So waiving that 12-month residency requirement. And that's a really cool thing we think we can do to help also our military friends that reside right across the street. So that may be paired with a certification bill that is working in the Senate as well. We're also looking at the Undergraduate Mission Studies Committee. That's been kind of sitting dead in the Senate, but it may be revived. Seeing if we can tackling the textbooks with a bill that may carry through, and a couple other things. So we'll be up there testifying on Tuesday and also the following week. So we will provide those updates as we get them. So just a couple updates. I went to Florida to talk about our inclusive access model here at Wright State and how we've saved students $700,000 in 2 semesters and projected to save students $2.5 million in spring 2019. It was well received. I happened to lose my voice the night before the presentation, so it was a fun trip for sure. Adrian did a fantastic job with the Women's STEM event. I'll let him talk about that here in a second. We had the Oxfam Hunger Awareness Dinner last night. to show the food inequality and insecurity in the world, and I'll let Ivan briefly touch on that. And then the other thing that I forgot to put on here was we had Students to the Polls Day on November 6th, where we contacted the Greene County Sheriff's Office, and we got their escort to have students walk across the street to go vote at the voting location right off of Zinc Road. So that was a really cool thing. So I'll let you guys talk really quick about the women in STEM and the Oxfam Hunger Awareness.
It was awesome to have President Schrader and Provost Edwards at the Women in STEM event. I think it was a great event for a lot of people, and I saw grad students. Even my TAs were there, so it was great to see everyone come out, and we thank you for coming out and giving your perspective to students. I'll let Ivan speak on the Oxfam dinner.
I just want to say that it was our pleasure, and I was very impressed with how Student Government Association organized that event and advertised it as well. So kudos to you.
And if I could just offer, big supporter of STEM. It was STEM, then it was STEAM, and now it's STEM. So what's the double M?
It keeps changing.
Yeah.
So
Medical.
mathematics and medical.
Medical.
Oh, you didn't put the arts, we go STEAM. So, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, last night, Student Government Association partnered with Lambda Chi Alpha here on campus, and we hosted the Hunger Awareness Dinner. And it was really a visual representation of how wealth inequality affects food security across the world. And the way that we did that was dividing up, I guess, with a number of people in the room, how many people got a really nice meal, and how many people were kind of left to fend for their own. And it was a really great event, and I really am thankful that we were able to put it on. It really put a lot of things in perspective, especially with Thanksgiving coming up.
So as always, we appreciate you allowing us to come speak before your committee, to give you an update of what student government is doing, and we'd be happy to take any questions that you may have.
So tell me more about that EMS program. You may not have known this, but in a previous life I was a professional paramedic for 9 years. So I have a soft spot in my heart for that. Where do you get your EMS support now on campus if a student needs to call 911? Is it one of the local municipalities that send folks over?
Yes, sir. So the model that UD employs is that students are EMTB certified and they handle campus emergencies. Obviously, we probably don't have the residential population that UD does. So what we're looking at is partnering with local fire departments to provide a pipeline for students to get trained and go on runs and kind of gain the experience so that when they go to a professional school, they have that on their resume.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great. Do you know how many calls you get in a month or a year? Or?
I believe when I looked at the statistics, it was about 23 calls a month, roughly, I believe, and a decent number of those are mental health related. So we probably don't have the alcohol related incidents that UD does, but it would definitely be an opportunity that we could explore for providing services even to like Zinc Road apartments and things like that if we can. So it's something we're looking into right now.
Well, it's a great career for students. It goes in so many directions beyond just life squad, business youth assistants, all kinds of things. So it fits right into what the university would like to do with its health sciences and health education.
Definitely.
Congratulations, that's great.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I'm really glad to see the emphasis on some of the veteran things. My late husband was a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force, so I'm glad there's a special emphasis on that. I also wanted to ask you, Adrian, I read in the news clips about the women of color that were leadership class or committee or club here on Wright State. Are you familiar with that?
I am not actually.
Because I didn't read the whole article, I'll admit, but I think it would be nice if we were working with students of color that they would have some mentors through that group also. It's a sort of leadership development organization is what I think it described it as. It was in a couple of weeks ago, it was in the Wright State social media, so but
Yeah,
I don't know who knows about that, but that would certainly lend itself to doing that.
I can help you, Grace. So that program is actually spearheaded by the Women's Center, and it's a cohort-based program that's designed to provide leadership opportunities as a cohort for women of color. So it's out of the Women's Center.
Okay, well, that would be a good place to have mentors and have them work together, and also that, I hope that will be a sort of feeder to the leadership that we said did not have much diversity in it.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of need for that. So, and I'm thankful for Adrian and for Daniel. I think they're taking a lot of initiatives, a lot of time, and thank you for coming over. And unless there's some other questions or comments, Gary, did you have something to say? I'll give you an opportunity to say something.
I was just gonna go into the report, my section, that's all.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
if you want to go now, that's,
Just
I
a
was
few-
asking you.
Okay, sorry. A few updates from the Division of Student Affairs. I think the last meeting I shared that we were collaborating with the Career Center to do a Suit Up program to help students prepare for their interviews because we had a career fair. And so student activities and the Career Center teamed up. We had over 200 students and alum, because alum were allowed to participate as well, buy things at reduced cost through a special closed event at JCPenney. It's kind of spurred some conversation about the possibility of creating a clothes closet on campus through partnering with Clothes at Work as part of the food pantry, which you're going to hear about. I'm real excited for them to share that information. So looking at different ways to just help students, again, dress well, be successful. Super proud, actually. Residence Life and Housing this past weekend hosted the regional conference for student residential leaders. About 6 states comprise the region that our university is a part of, and we had 320 students from over 40 different institutions visit our campus over the weekend. The thing that's especially a point of pride for us is that normally the planning process takes 18 months, and there's a bidding process. We were going to put a bid in, decided kind of not to, and then another school bid and received the bid, and then it's my understanding that school backed out halfway through the planning process, and Residence Life and Housing, because the National Committee knew that we were considering a bid, asked us if we would be willing to kind of step in or step up and take on that responsibility of putting together the conference, and they did. So in about 8 months, that's normally an 18-month process, they stepped up and did a fantastic job. And I want to share a quote. There was a representative from the National Association at it, and he said that Wright State turned out to definitely be the right choice and the right school to host this conference. So they did a phenomenal job and made us all very proud. Last couple of things before I turn it over to our guests to talk a little bit about the food pantry. We are up to about 222 registered student organizations, which is about 20 more than what we've had over the past couple of years, and close to 9,000 students have indicated through our online application that they have that their membership is part of a student org. So close to 9,000 students are registered with different student organizations on campus. We're also doing some data kind of collection, and wanted to just share with you that of the students that we surveyed and who are seeking counseling and wellness services right now, 48% of them reported that their academic performance they believe improved due to the services they received from our counseling center. Also important to note that as our enrollment has been impacted over the years, the amount of services that we provide through counseling has consistently stayed the same or this year gone up. So that's consistent with a national trend. Last thing is, through a recent satisfaction survey that we did with Res Life and Housing, 88% of our students responded that they, living on campus has contributed to their learning in some way, shape, or form. And so those are kinds of data points that we're excited and proud of based on the work that we're doing. The last thing that I wanted to spend a little bit of my time talking about is actually kind of deferring to Joanna Evans, who, this is Joanna, and Monica Gray. They are our student coordinator and intern, respectively, of our Friendship Food Pantry. And we have a food pantry on campus, and some people are surprised when they hear that we have a food pantry and why we have a food pantry. And so I thought it would be good timing considering we're going into the holidays, and a lot of us do, as Daniel had said, have a lot to be thankful for. and for them to share just for a couple of minutes about why it is that we have a food pantry, what it does, and the benefits that it provides to our students, because it certainly is a retention tool. So having said that, I will turn it over to Joanna and Monica.
Thank you. So I just want to thank you for letting us be able to come in and talk about this opportunity that we have with the Friendship Food Pantry. For those of you who may not know, the idea was founded back in 2009. A group that was involved in student service learning. They had come into contact with a lot of faculty and staff members who said that they had students that were hungry and food insecure. So this led to a campus-wide survey that the results showed that 48% of students were experiencing food insecurity while they were students at Wright State. In 2011, the Friendship Food Pantry was established. And our primary focus, our main goal, is to provide that emergency food assistance to our students. We provide food once a month. Every 30 days, we do send out reminders to let them know when they can come back. We do understand, though, that more emergent situations do happen. We've had students who their car has broke down and they need to pay for that. So then they don't have money for food. And so it's like, well, I'm gonna have to work an extra shift. So I'm not gonna come to class. So we're trying to be able to build care plans with those students so they can come more often through those months. So we can get them through those emergency situations so that way they can stay in school and not have to worry about paying for the food. We also, our secondary and primary goal is case management, which is what my student intern, Monica, does.
So I provide case management to our clients. So when clients come into the pantry, they fill out an intake form. And we have a Wright State specific survey where they can indicate reasons that they're at the pantry. So maybe they have like some devastating life event, maybe they work and don't make enough money, or whatever the reason. And then there's also another section where they can indicate any additional resources they would like information on, like utilities, housing, childcare, etc. And so I can go back in and see those results. And so what I do is I provide case management via email. So I have a 3-email system. The first email I send out to the clients is providing them those resources that they asked for. The second email I send a couple weeks later and is a follow-up email asking if they were able to utilize those resources, if there's any additional resources they would like. And then the third email I send is just a reminder, since we are a 30-day pantry, I let them know when they're eligible to come back and visit us again if they are still in need.
And we're very thankful for the collaboration. We are both social work students. I'm a master's of social work student and Monica is a bachelor's of social work student. And because of the collaboration we do have with student affairs, they do collaborate with the social work department to allow me to be the GA, which allows me to be able to supervise Monica as a bachelor student. And we do understand that there is a major problem, not just within our university, but nationwide. So Monica did look up an article.
So the Wisconsin Hope Lab actually conducted the largest national research study on food insecurity, and it spans 66 different universities they surveyed students from. And so what they found was that 36% of those students were actually reported being food insecure in the last 30 days prior to completing that survey.
And this article led us to look back at past years. So in the 2016-2017 school year, 580 people were served by the Friendship Food Pantry, and last year, the 2017-2018 school year, 617 people were served, so our numbers are going up, and we have been looking at our numbers from August to October, and we're actually more than what we were during that time frame. We want to talk about some of the fundraising and events that we get involved in. So we do get monetary donations, and we do have people who just donate, clean out their pantry, and stop by and drop things off. But we do more targeted events as well. So currently, right now, we're doing the Thanksgiving basket drive, and we are serving 30 families who are struggling to get together at Thanksgiving dinner this year. And we saw that a lot of people did donate a lot of things. We are very, very thankful for all the stuff you're donating. The families are really going to appreciate that. That's actually happening on Monday, so very soon. And we are also having another event coming up in December. We do life skill classes. They're called Adulting on a Dime. This one is focusing around handmade holiday. So we're going to be teaching skills like sewing and how to create things like bath bombs, body soaps, and candles, and all kinds of different gifts. So they can come in and make those gifts to give to their families. It's free to the students, free to our clients. So it'll help them be able to learn those skills as well that they can apply in the following years. And then we also do food drives. We've already had 2 big ones this year, Rowdy 500, We got 570 items, which is awesome. And then Nightmare on Springwood Lane, we collaborate with the RCA, and we got 625 items. So October, we got quite a few donations, which has been very helpful since a lot of students are starting to come in because holiday breaks are coming up and they want to have food to get through those breaks. And then we have a couple events coming up in the spring, and if you'd like to know a little bit more about them, you can email us at foodpantry@wright.edu, and we have a newsletter that we send out every month that gives a lot of details about our upcoming events. So a little bit of statistics.
So we provided some statistics for you since the beginning of the semester. As you can see, our client population has increased since August. We've had a lot of clients come in October. We've also been getting a lot more donations for food, which is primarily due to our fundraisers, the Rowdy 500, and of course Nightmare on Springwood Lane. So that's been great because we are able to accommodate the increase in clients. So.
And next, we can tell you how amazing this opportunity is for us, but I thought it would be more beneficial to hear from a couple of our students that actually use the pantry. So these are two of the testimonies that we received from, these are clients that I've been serving since I started back in May. So I wanted to put those in here for you to kind of look over. And lastly, we wanted to talk about the future of the Friendship Food Pantry. This is something that we're very excited about. We are relocating in January. We're currently located in Allen Hall, and we are going to the Student Union. So we're going to be surrounded by all the other resources. Students, I think, will be able to find us much easier, and the space is triple the size. So now we are currently looking to get donations for a new fridge and a new freezer, new shelves, because now we're going to be able to take in more food and provide our students with more food. And it's definitely something that we're very excited to have. We thank you for giving us your time to come in and talk to you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions, or should we move along? Bob, sorry, we'll have to do a fast break.
Well, I do have something. Thank you for your presentation. The only bullet point missing at the end was the one where you expect 100% participation from the Board of Trustees in the food pantry Thanksgiving. If my fellow trustees care not to put together a basket, I have just proved how easy it is to make a financial donation online while we were listening to you. So I would challenge my trustees all to make a contribution to the food pantry, and next time put that bullet on there that you expect 100% participation from the Board of Trustees.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
There you go.
I just want to say, kind of going off the online thing, we actually, something new we created was, we have an Amazon list now, so you can go onto our Amazon list and just donate directly there, and the items that you purchase or that people purchase will be shipped directly to Wright State, so kind of like a convenience factor for people that want to donate but maybe don't have the time to come in or, whatever. So that is something new that we're doing.
Great.
So we're hoping to get more people to.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
I just have a couple of comments. Gary, first of all, I had the opportunity to greet the 320 or so people coming in for the Residence Hall Conference, and I just wanted to make sure that you relay that I was very impressed at the staff and the students who served as hosts for that event. And it really was great to be able to showcase Wright State in that way, so thank you so much. With regard to a soup closet, I can tell you that was one of the things at my last institution that helped put us up in the top 10 for career services in the nation. And one of the things that we did was we worked with the companies who were coming to our career fairs, and they often did soup drives before those events. And then they would come to the career fair and help replenish the soup closet because it got, really tapped into quite, right before any one of those career fairs. And the companies were very, very generous in doing that. They looked forward to participating in that way.
That's a good idea.
Any other questions or comments from the board? Now we'll move on with the athletic report.
Thank you, Grace. Give you a few quick highlights of what's happening in athletics this fall. Our culture of, I think, personal development and overachievement really is taking hold and doing well academically. We now are, again, the Cal Ripken streak continues, knock on wood, 48 straight terms of our student athletes having a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or higher. Don't want to ever take that for granted. And the grad success rates came out for this year. When you put this year's, the last 2 years of grad success rates, our student athletes' average grad success rate the last 3 years is 86%. That's the highest 3-year snapshot in our history. Athletically, and I've got a couple of special guests with me today, but men's soccer this fall, I hope you've heard about them, hope you got to see them. Historically, by far not even close to the best season in our Division I history. I've got one of our players here with us, so I'll introduce him in a minute, but they were top 25 all year, which is a phenomenal accomplishment. Honestly, the way they're funded, they're not funded to be a top 25 program in the country, to be very candid. And so, tremendous overachievement. Really, I thought got hosed in the end. Every prognostication I saw had us getting in as an at-large. We were that good as far as our RPI ranking and our national ranking. And we did not get in. Those polls and those decisions tend to slant toward the BCS schools, and that's indeed what happened here. So unfortunately for Eric and his teammates, their season is over, but his senior year was the best in our history, which is fantastic. Women's soccer had a very good year. Of note, they had the player of the year in the conference, Aaliyah Patton, who's from Fairborn, first time in our history women's soccer's ever had the player of the year. Volleyball is playing in a couple of hours up in Green Bay, and that's a little bit historic in that this is, believe it or not, the first time in a decade that our volleyball team has made the Horizon 8 tournament. So great building block for them. We've got a new coach in that program. I think she will do great things. Women's cross country finished up their season about a month ago, and they finished second in the Horizon League, tied for our highest finish in our history, Division I. Again, they're not funded very well, relatively speaking, so great overachievement by them. Women's basketball has kicked off now. They are 1-2. They lost a game last night to a very good Belmont team, but they are in the midst of trying to continue a 5-year run where, believe it or not, I had to look this up, it's impressive. They've averaged 25 wins a year the last 5 years and have played in 5 straight postseasons. So what Katrina Merriweather's done has been nothing short of miraculous, and I look for them to continue doing that this coming season. Men's basketball, fresh off the NCAAs, had a very nice win on Wednesday over Toledo. I might note that Cole Gentry, who spoke to this group the last time we all met, must have picked up some really good mojo from the Board of Trustees. He dropped 30 points on a very good Toledo team and left them very unhappy with the result, a 10-point win and a good win for us. So they're looking to build off of that. We have some good exposure news when it comes to men's basketball. Again, another historic number. ESPN chooses, before the conference season starts, the games they want to televise on national platforms. And then there are wild card games throughout the year where they then will pick, depending on who's doing well and who's not doing well, who gets national exposure. So for the first time in our history, it's a tiresome phrase I keep saying, we've been picked for 4 games before the conference season even starts. So we'll be on national TV on December 28th, January 11th, February 1st, and February 15th. So again, that kind of exposure as a person who loves Wright State, and I've been here my whole life, that's like gold for us. This is the reason that programs like Dayton and Xavier and VCU and Wichita State invest in that men's basketball program for this type of exposure. The last thing I'll point your attention to that I think Debbie handed out, this is sort of a fun thing. Doug Fecker will like this as well. Every year CBS Sports comes out with their rankings of college basketball programs within each state. So if you're in Arizona and say, well, my program is better than yours, you can say, well, let's go to the ranking system preseason. Of course, it's very subjective, and see who the top teams are. And so, again, for the first time in our history, if you look at the back, and I didn't print off the 30 pages that include every state, you can go online and see this article, but the ranking of the 13 schools in Ohio, they have the Raiders, your Raiders, as 4th out of 13. UC is number 1, Doug, doing very well. And I took the liberty of adding how much each school above us spends on men's basketball compared to how we spend. UC $7 million, Xavier $8 million, Ohio State $9 million, Wright State $3 million. I might also point to who number 8 is on that thing. That's caused quite a bit of nice water cooler talk around the Miami Valley, so we're always happy when that happens. So enough about that. You hear me say all the time, I think we have some of the highest achievers on this campus in our athletic program, and I'm really blessed to have 2 of them with me today. I'll introduce them each quickly. Grace, I've asked them to hold their comments to 45 minutes or less each, so we should be fine. So I've got Eric Hutton with us today. Eric is a senior from Chillicothe. He is legitimately a soccer star. If you've been to any of our games, you can't watch for 2 or 3 minutes without seeing Eric and the factor that he has on the field. But he's not just an athlete, he's also a student. He was an academic All-Ohio selection last year. He is currently our Student Advisory Committee SAC president. And so I've asked Eric to tell quickly, Grace, his story of Wright State, how he got here, how his experience has been, and maybe how this specific year, again, the best in men's soccer's history has been for him. Eric?
Yeah, so thanks you guys again. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself, how I came to Wright State, and then a little bit about SAC, what we call Student Athlete Advisory Committee. So, like he said, my name's Eric Hutton. I'm a senior at Wright State. I'm studying health and physical education, and I was a former soccer player. We just ended, a little disappointing, but that's okay. And I'm the president of SAC. So just to kind of tell you guys a little bit about why I chose Wright State. So I verbally committed very early in my time as a junior in March, when I verbally committed to Wright State. I'm from Chillicothe, Ohio, which you don't know, it's about an hour and 15 minutes away from here. It's a very small town compared to up here. So I liked Wright State because it was close to my family, and also I liked Wright State because it was a bigger university, but it has a small feeling to it. It's really has a community feeling to it, which I very much liked. And also when I went up to my visit, I really liked the campus, the facilities, and I really connected with my coaches. I had a good relationship with them right off the bat, and they were very interested in me, so that attracted me as well. And I saw where the soccer program was going. They started having winning seasons and competing with the top teams nationally, and I wanted to be a part of that. So just to talk a little bit, BG already hit it on it a little bit, but my soccer career has been amazing. It was better than I thought it would be. Luckily, I've been able to play a lot and had success individually, but we've had tons of team success. So the 4 years that I've been here, we've had a winning record. We've made it to the Rising League tournament each year, and we won the regular season 2 years since I've been here. And also just recently, we just ended up losing to UIC in the conference final, but we won our league, and it was the best season that we've ever had in the program. I was very thankful to be a part of it, and I thought we were going to get in the NCAA tournament. It didn't work out, but it was just such a cool experience that to see us ranked top 25 for the whole season, and also we're playing teams like Virginia, West Virginia, Marshall, and it's not like when we're going there we're losing 5-6-0. It's 2-1 or we're beating them, and we're competing with the top teams in the country. And then not only that, I'm not just a soccer player, I'm also a student, and I'm the president of SAC, and I've learned so much from my time at Wright State. And I think the biggest thing that I've learned is like how to be a leader. So for the past 2 years, I've been one of the captains of the soccer team, and my coaches have really gotten on me about being a leader, holding people accountable, and also encouraging them to do that. And then being the president of SAC, I have a lot of responsibilities as well. And since I'm going to be a teacher, all my classes, and I'm in my field experience right now, I'm going to Trayvine Elementary, and just working with the kids and stuff, you have to be a good role model. You have to make sure that you're setting a good example and to be a leader. So I've learned a lot with that. And then also just managing my time with academics, my sport, and my social life. It's really hard to manage your time to make sure that you're doing well, and it's taught me a lot about that. And then I just wanted to say one more thing about my relationships that I've made. I think that's the biggest thing that I've enjoyed the most. Becoming president of SAC, I've gotten really close with the athletic administration. I have a relationship with them now, but with my teammates and with my classmates, I have relationships that I know will last a lifetime and memories that will last forever. So I think that's pretty cool. So now I just want to do an overview of what SAC is and kind of like what we're doing. So if you guys don't know, SAC consists of 2 athletes from every team. So I have another soccer player on the team with me, and she has another track player with me, and we have everyone from basketball, volleyball, and women's soccer as well. And we meet once a month, and I really wanted to emphasize that we meet once a month with the athletic administration. So Maria's going to talk about this a little bit, but we talked to some of the other Horizon League SAC committees, and they don't even meet with, most of them don't meet with their athletic administration, which doesn't really make sense because our role as SAC committees, as student athletes, is to be a liaison between the athletes and the athletic administration. So our job is basically to be the voice for athletes, because even though the athletic administration tries to understand us and know us the best, they aren't living that life like how we are now, like our time, our commitments, and so we can be that voice for the student athletes and express our concerns and opinions and interests in how we can make it better. Some of the things that we do as well is that we also have a life skills program. This is to help with personal development, career development, and social responsibility. We usually do that once a month as well. Every athlete has to attend, And it usually goes over stuff like mental health, suicide prevention, relationship health. Because a lot of times, a big thing that's been going on recently with athletes is that we've been trained to hide our feelings and just assume that we're okay. And this is Life Skills is trying to bring out how you can make sure that, you know, not everyone's perfect, not everyone's doing it right, which really helps a lot of athletes, I know that. And then finally, a big thing that we do is that we promote and plan community service events. I think this is one of the proudest things that we have done as a SAC for me. In the spring, we're doing our 3rd annual Special Olympics here, and that's where we just host Special Olympic athletes. Usually we are assigned a certain athlete and we assist them throughout the day. It's a really cool experience. Also, we go out and we read books to schools. So we've been doing this probably the past few years. Several athletes have gone out and read books to kids in the community, and I think it's a cool way to promote Wright State and show that athletes don't just care about the sport, but they care about academics. And then finally, I wanted, coming up in December, so pretty soon, we're doing a holiday dinner dance. This is hosted by the Special Olympics for Greater Dayton as well. I went there last year, and I can say that this was probably one of the coolest and most amazing experience I've had in college. And I can't wait to do it again. Just to give you, we helped set up, serve food, and clean up for them. But then when we were organizing this, they said, we want to make sure you go out and engage and dance with them. I don't know how you guys are as dancers, but I am not the most comfortable dancer. So I was really worried and nervous about going out and dancing in front of people. And it was just so amazing to see the individuals with a disability. They just went out there, they went crazy, and they had fun. And it encouraged me just to go out there. And I just went out there and looked like a madman, and I had so much fun. And I was just engaged with them. I was able to talk to them, and I just learned so much about working and talking with individuals with a disability. So I can't wait to go in about a month. So that's kind of like what SAC is, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. And just thanks again for having me talk to you, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to talk to you guys.
Thanks, Eric. I've also got Maria Heckman, also known as Jerry Hensley today, with us. Maria is a senior pole vaulter from Minster. She is the Student Athlete Advisory Committee Vice President, so if something happens to Eric, he can't be there, Maria steps in. She'll talk a little about that. Maria is a star athlete. She is a multiple Horizon League pole vault champion. She holds the Wright State pole vault record. So when it comes to pole vaulting, Maria is no joke for sure. One of the things I asked her to talk about is Maria, I think, and I don't know anybody else, I've challenged our conference to correct me if I'm wrong, anybody else in her exact position, in that the Horizon League redid their governance structure 2 years ago. And they changed it, and so there are 13 individuals who basically craft the direction of the Horizon League, and it's the 10 athletic directors, plus 1 faculty athletic rep from the league, so not every school, only 1 senior women's administrator from the league, not every one, that makes 12, and 1 student athlete. 13 people sit in meetings and on the phone multiple times a year. Maria is the student athlete rep, so it's really a cool thing. We had a meeting in Chicago last month, and Wright had a little bit of a voting block, I guess, that meeting. It was neat to see her across the table, taking all this in and speaking up, and it was one of my more proud moments. Look, she's a tremendous pole vaulter, but she's a better person. So, Maria, just a couple minutes, please.
Okay, thank you, BG. As he said, my name is Maria Heckman. I am from Minster, Ohio, small town about an hour north. I'm a senior financial services and accounting major, aspirations of being a financial advisor later in my career. On the track team, and as he said, a pole vaulter. Why I chose Wright State, just real quick, I mean, I think what Wright State has to offer gets overlooked a lot. I initially had thought, oh, I'm gonna go Ohio State, go Bucks, like that's where I'm going. And as I started looking in, and I went on a campus visit, I really fell in love with the close-knit community, the athletics administration, my coaches at the time were just really great, and then all the student athletes really seemed to care about each other. It seemed like a family, and that's just something I bought into right away. In my experience at Wright State, I've been exposed to more opportunities, formed more relationships than I had ever thought possible, from both athletics, academics, participating in community service. Throughout the academic portion, I've been really involved in our finance club, which is been great for me. I've gotten to know a lot of my professors. I think that's important for any student, not just an athlete, just to form those relationships. It helps with career development. One thing, as part of being a Wright State SAC, we also have a Horizon League SAC, Student Athlete Advisory Committee, and it's made up of 2 members from every institution. So that's me and then our other vice president. So we meet once in person in Indianapolis back in June, and then once a month on the call. And we just kind of give an update of things we're trying to do in the league, from mental health, community service. We partner with Special Olympics, as Eric mentioned, and One Love. And we talk about what's going on our campuses, what's going well, what's not. And one thing I've really noticed is we really seem to be above the standard in terms of a lot of things. In some other campus SACs, the administration doesn't attend, and that they just say that it doesn't really help with attendance rates. Another thing is we really believe in the PSA model, that people first, students second, and athletes third. And I would say every campus would say they believe in that, but to believe in it and to say it and to do it is completely different things. And I've had a lot of help in my 4 years here through administration, not just when in athletics, but in career development as well. I mean, I remember my sophomore year, I was really struggling. I had my first interview for an internship I really wanted, and I was pretty nervous. And I went into the administration, I was just kind of mentioned that, and Megan, who was our special assistant to the athletic director, she met with me and did a mock interview, and I think that just really proves that they're interested in more than just you as an athlete. And then briefly, when we were at that Horizon League SAC committee meeting back in June, they asked who was interested in being on the council. And to be completely honest, wasn't exactly sure what the council was composed of. Didn't know it would be just all 10 athletic directors. And they asked me if I was interested, and I said yes. But it's really, I mean, I can't say enough about that experience as well. Meeting with athletic directors, seeing what goes on from, it gives me appreciation for our administration, what goes on behind the scenes and putting on various conference championships. And then just the fact that they are committed to giving the student athlete a voice in the different things they're debating. I can speak up not just for Wright State, but for all student athletes.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
So how high did you pull?
12 feet 8 inches.
How tall are you?
About 5'6".
Wow.
All right, thank you very much. I just want to say that I know we ran late, but it's listening to you and seeing what you're doing that motivates me to donate my time to come to all these meetings and, well, anyway, to support you. That's what it's all about. So if I have nothing else for the order, we'll adjourn.
It's a speed. And I didn't. Either speed or. Person should get to help with. We need a refrigerator and a freezer. Is that what it is?
What is it for?
What is it you need for the food pantry? A refrigerator, a freezer, what was that equipment you said?
My name is Jim.
Oh, really?
Send me. Okay, I'll say. I'm thinking about it. Jim.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
So how's it going? All right, good to know.
We try.
perfunctory conflict of interest statement. It is of the utmost importance to ensure that all university decisions are free from any real or perceived conflicts of interest. Therefore, please be mindful of all obligations with which you have been charged as a trustee of Wright State University, and take the steps you deem appropriate to perform your duties fairly and impartially. This will be a little unusual today in that we only have 3 board members here and very specific targeted topics. And much of this, Debbie, is for the record because this is really preparing us for December as we deal with a couple of these topics. So let me start out with some upfront comments. Today we're going to be focusing on affiliated entities, specifically updating the board members who are here today on the Wright State University Foundation affiliate agreement process. That's come up a couple of times in the past, and it was on the top of our list for the next one for memorandum agreement. And I'm also going to bring the board up to speed on the Wizards' progress in meeting the specific requirements in their affiliated entity memorandum agreement with the university. Now, for planning purposes, we're going to expect a progress report on the foundation in December, and Kelly will talk to that. And then we'll also be getting the annual report from Wizard per their affiliated entity policy. And again, for the record, Wizard will be the first affiliate entity to meet the intent of this annual reporting requirement. So today I'm going to give kind of a precursor, since Mr. Anders couldn't be here, on that particular Wizard report. But before we do that, we're going to talk just briefly about the foundation, because I think it's going to set the stage, and Walt, thank you for being here also, set the stage for further exceptions to policy discussions that we've had previously. We did that with Wizard. For those, I think everybody here was at the double bowler one where we had to look at an exception to policy. And the whole point of the affiliate entity policy was to either be in compliance, and if not in compliance, come back through the administration to the board with a request for an exception to policy. We're expecting the next one, the foundation, and probably the Alumni Association, to be requesting similar exceptions. So Kelly, I'd like to just turn it over to you, and if you can just update the 3 board members who are here today and others about where we are with the foundation specifically.
Thank you. So we're in the process of coming up with a final draft of the foundation affiliation and our memorandum of agreement. We provided some back and forth exchanges and anticipate hopefully a final vote of approval on that agreement from the foundation in February, which is the next time we meet. Because we have a fairly final draft of that agreement, we anticipate 2 exceptions to the policy. So I just wanted to briefly update you on those, and then we'll come back at a later time and really dive into what those exceptions are. So the first is kind of a technical exception. It deals with the university directors as required by the board's affiliated entity policy. So according to the policy, at least 2 members of the entity's board of directors have to be nominated by the university's president. As the foundation's code of regulations currently reads, 2 university board of trustees members are members of the foundation's board of trustees. So essentially it serves the same purpose, reaps the same result, but that would be an exception to the university director requirement within the policy. The second has to do with reserve powers. Within the policy, if a majority of the directors of the affiliated entity are not those 2 university directors, the Code of Regulations provides the university with certain reserve powers. And in the foundation's case, as I just mentioned, there are not a majority of directors that are going to be those university directors. So the policy does require those reserve powers. Their Code of Regulation and our agreement as it's currently drafted does not include those reserve powers, but we do have mitigating clauses and factors within the agreement to make up for the lack of those reserve powers. And again, I will go through all of those clauses and mitigating provisions once we get a final version of that agreement in place.
Kelly, I've been party to those discussions that we've been hammering through, what their codes are and how we could actually meet the intent that they feel in the policy. One of those that was there today is that it's the placement of one of our board of trustee members on their executive committee. So, we're going to have much greater involvement and the transparency on anything that happens will be evident to our board. So nothing that even happens in the executive committee would be hidden from the board of trustees. So that was one of those. Mitigating. Get anything to add to that?
No.
Okay. Yeah, so I think for the benefit of this committee to understand from a governance and compliance, we're doing what we think is due diligence to make sure that the intent of the affiliate policy is met, that actions taken by any affiliate are fully transparent to the board of trustees and the university. And I know that Counselor at the end of the table, when we were putting together the affiliate policy, had inserted the reserve powers for very specific purposes, and he's been very much involved also in this dialogue. So, Larry, do you have anything to add to that?
I do not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions dealing with likely exceptions to policy that we'll be dealing with in more detail at the next committee day?
So I will be interested in seeing the mitigating aspects of the reserve powers if exceptions are required. I have the affiliated entity policy in front of me, and so the reserve powers are reserved for really material decisions that an affiliated entity might make. So, as much information as you can give on how, if an exception is required because of different codes of regulations, the intent is that the university board would still have input or decision-making ability on these really high level. Is that your understanding?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, when they looked at their code, their fiduciary responsibilities, and effectively giving one individual a veto power over their entire board, that is really where the impasse is. Now the question is, do we have enough authority with the representation all the way up to their executive committee to influence those kind of decisions?
And the foundation board's a little different, right? It's a big board.
It is. They have approximately 40 members.
Yeah. So would you say the foundation's 40-member board, that's not my idea of a governing board? That's really because of the fundraising mission of the university. So they have a lot of community connections. Is that right? Do they have an executive committee that's more of the controlling?
They do.
That's what
and that's why in the discussions done, one of the compromise solutions was to have the Wright State University Board of Trustees member on the executive committee, because that's really where the governance happens.
Right.
Good. So well, again, this is just a whet the appetite and at least to let people know where we're headed. And Walt, you've been involved in this. Anything else to add?
No.
Okay. Let me, for the sake of time, I want to get us back on schedule. Let's now move into the Wizard update. So again, this is more for the record to again get us ready for what's coming. And I did have asked the executive director, Mr. Anders, to be ready to present to the board. And I've asked the secretary of the board to consider adding a 1-hour session before the executive session on the 13th of December for the CFO and Mr. Anders for our affiliate entity policy and MOA to present. So I saw 2 up there. So you're giving us 2 hours, not 1?
No, it would be a 2 o'clock start.
Okay. Okay. I thought you were going to give me 2 hours versus 1. I said, you are generous. No. Okay. So again, we're working that behind the scenes. My desire as the committee chair is not to push this into January. And so I'd like to, per the MOA, achieve our 1-year reporting requirement in December. Okay, so as part of the implementation of the affiliate entity policy, the board, which the board approved in 2016, the Wright State Applied Research Corporation was the first entity to ensure compliance with the policy, which included completion of a MOA between Wizard and the university. The memorandum of agreement requires Wizard to do a number of things. One of those was to procure a D&O insurance for its directors and officers as a private 501c3. That's good for me because I sit on that board and it's nice to have D&O insurance. That's been done. The memorandum also requires Wizard to submit an annual report to the university and the board of trustees, quote, in a form to be determined by the chief financial officer. This report will include a number of items, and the ones I'm going to go through today are ones that have been completed by Wizard. That's going to be provided in person by the executive director in December, as we previously discussed, and the board will have ample opportunity to question the CFO and the executive director. So let me just walk through these. One of the requirements is financial statements and accompanying footnotes. According to the most recent audit that was done by BKD, which we heard about earlier today, Wizard had positive cash flow and depreciation for FY 17 and 18, and Wizard is making payments to the university in less than their required 60 days. And then under the audit procedures and statements, the most recent audit again by BKD was quote unquote much improved over FY 17 with no major deficiencies. And this audit report was already provided to the university in the Wizard's September monthly report. Under tax filings, where 501c3 has to do their own independent 990, 990T forms, those have been completed. The annual budget report has been completed. We'll get that in detail on 13 December, as I mentioned to the trustees this morning. The MOA requires the disclosure of material contingent liabilities and litigation. All Wizards affiliate entities have been terminated or dissolved for those who've been around a while. That's been a long and tedious process. But when we started looking at in depth at Wizard, there were a number of, I would call them sub-affiliate relationships that occurred going back to 2014-15, and those have all been addressed. The list of the current directors and officers has to be provided. Currently, the board consists of 3 internal Wright State University employees, 1 Wright State University Board of Trustees, yours truly, and always looking for volunteers who want to come in and step in behind me and do that. And then 9 outside directors. Next on the list is disclosure of significant events that change the financial profile or operations of the organization. And this is probably one worth pausing on. This is one of the most important reasons why we have affiliate entity policy and MOAs, to make sure that the university is not surprised by things. On 13 December, we'll get an in-person report from Mr. Anders, specifically the report will deal with the relationship with ATIC and what is being done to ensure Wright State University is not adversely impacted by ATIC's decision to sell their facility. And I know, Walt, you were very much involved in some of those discussions. As reported to the university, Wizard had to write off $1.3 million because of the ATIC building was sold and there was not enough equity to pay off the Wizard promissory note. But it should be noted, Wizard is continuing to pursue all possible avenues for recovery of those funds. Wizard still owes Wright State University approximately $580,000 associated with that note, and Wizard continues to make quarterly payments on this obligation and has every intention of continuing to do that. So as we've looked at Wizard's finances and their ability to pay that off, I'm confident to say that we feel very good right now about Wright State University not being impacted by that particular situation. But again, we'll have opportunities to question the executive director and our CFO in December. We have to have, just going down the list, we have to have proof of compliance with Ohio Attorney General charitable registration requirements. That's been done. And probably the second most important thing on the list of requirements is part of the MOA. There must be a progress report towards financial independence. Wizard WSRI has met this requirement since 1 July 2016, and they continue to remain financially independent. Okay, I'll pause there. Any questions, comments? Okay. In addition to the required annual report, Wizard has provided the university monthly affiliate entity reports to demonstrate progress in achieving full compliance with the policy. One area not covered in the initial MOA, it's always interesting what you learn after the fact, what you actually put ink on the paper when you go, doggone it, I wish I would have put this in there. There are several items, most of them minor, but the one that is most significant that Wizard is working with the university today, and we spoke up earlier today about it, it's what's called a shared services agreement. That is work that's ongoing right now, so we have full transparency about services provided to an affiliate, and then what the affiliate is doing for the university in what we are calling a shared services agreement. I think it's a better practice, and for us going forward, Kelly, I would expect that in all of our MOAs that we address the shared service agreement, so there's no question about what the university is providing to an affiliate and what we're getting in return, and to understand if it's a fair exchange, or if we agree that if it's unbalanced, we have to make a determination that that's in the best interest of the university. Okay, so the plan right now on the shared service agreement, I believe Walt is still, we're working towards the end of the calendar year. I'm going to let Mr. Andrews know that we expect an update on that when he briefs us on the 13th. And then, and just for where, just to put it in context, the shared agreement between exchange of services, we're estimating right now it's about $300,000. I know there's probably still some work to go on that, but that's the total both ways, the total. So we're not talking millions of dollars worth of shared services for Wizard. It's approximately $300,000. So are there any questions? I'm going to pause and come up for air. Is there any questions or comments for Walt or Kelly regarding where we are with Wizard, update of the MOA, and the shared service agreement, or anything else? Doug or Grace?
Look forward to the report.
Yep. And again, this is a benchmark for all other affiliates. That's why I'm pushing so hard to get it done this calendar year. I don't like the idea of sliding this one because I want to be able to hold every affiliate to the annual reporting requirement that's stipulated in the policy. Okay, so this concludes the governance and compliance meeting. Is there anything else? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to save this to last on the affiliated entity policy in general. It's a new policy of the university in the last year or so, and so it would probably evolve. I believe we should amend the policy to include that every one of our affiliated entities, either when they're formed, if they're formed in the future, or for our existing affiliated entities, obtain a legal opinion that the structure and operation of each of these affiliates will effectively limit the liability of that organization back to the university. Now, I know that's the intent of the affiliated entity policy. In my business, if a credit union were to form an affiliated company, it would be required that we have a legal opinion on paper by an attorney qualified to make that judgment that there is a limitation of liability between the two organizations. That's the intent that we have, but we don't have that strict of a. I believe we should ask for that for our affiliated entities because that would help to solve another one of the questions that comes up from time to time is the university protected from a liability standpoint? Obviously, you never know until you go to a court of law, but to get a written opinion when we either form one or it retroactively on all the ones that we have might be a good idea. And I think we should amend our policy to include that as a requirement of new affiliated entities to have that legal opinion. Does that make sense?
Yeah, let me chime in because.
You said that the affiliation would get an attorney to write that.
I don't know that I'm suggesting.
Oh, that's what I was trying to clarify.
There needs to be a legal opinion by a qualified attorney that the setting up of an affiliated organization to the university is set up in such a way that it is legally segregating the risk, that the liability is segregated. And we believe that to be true with our affiliated entities, but we don't have legal opinions.
But we do get legal review with the affiliate when they actually get approval of the affiliate and go to the MOA. Let me just offer this, Doug. That's been 3 years since we established the affiliate entity policy. We've now gone into our third formal approval with 3 exceptions. I think it's time for us to step back and say, is there something we should change in the affiliate entity policy? As you know, it took us over a year to get that, but it's probably time to review it. So Kelly, we'll just take the action from the governance and compliance to put that on our list of things to do. But we had to first get through the bylaws update, which was the right thing to do, and now we're still hammering through the affiliate entity policy. I do believe that it's appropriate for us in 2019, Doug, to look at a review of the policy and to make any necessary amendments. And we'll note, the legal review requirement and to make sure that we are doing that appropriately in the policy.
I think my concern was that if we had someone looking at it to protect us, then it should probably be our own general counsel or someone.
Which happens now, Grace, in the review process.
So I guess I don't understand what else we do.
I don't think we have to solve it today. We can actually make sure in our review that we're addressing the board's concerns regarding legal review.
Well, I'm simply asking that when you set up an affiliated organization, not even in a university, any organization that sets up a subsidiary, unless it's set up appropriately, there's the risk that the liability of the subsidiary could flow through to the parent. And so when you set one up, it's a best practice to have a written legal opinion. And that's our intent with this affiliated entity policy, is to make sure the liabilities of the whatever affiliated entities that the university has, that the liability of those entities cannot flow through to the university. That's clearly the intent. I'm just asking that the policy be strengthened by requiring a written legal opinion that that's true to the best of the knowledge of the attorney, whoever writes it. It could be our general counsel, or the general counsel could choose somebody else to give us that opinion, but we don't require a written opinion right now. We require everything to say that it's the liability is limited, except for a legal opinion. It's just a best practice to have a legal opinion. They're not massively expensive to get, but
I was just
right.
suggesting that if someone's going to protect the university will review it, that we're going to accept.
Because the issue of separating.
I thought that you had said that they need to get a legal opinion. They need to set up whatever they need to set up their affiliation.
Speak up, please. Use the microphone.
I'm sorry. I just said I had no problem with the intent in that. I was just concerned that it seemed that you were saying that the affiliated person would have to provide the legal opinion. And I just simply was saying, I would think it should be our general counsel, for the protection of the university.
Yes. The university needs a legal opinion provided by its counsel, whether it's our general counsel or not, that's set up, because it's not a black and white issue. It's not like check these 3 boxes and the liability is limited. It's a flowing. It's not a black and white issue, so that's why you need a legal opinion. But the legal opinion is from the university's interests, not the affiliated entity's interests. So it could be our general counsel that provides it.
We will take that under advisement when we review and update the policy, and all 9 board members will have an opportunity to express their concerns or views when we go through that review. Anything else from my fellow trustees? Okay, is there anything else for the good order? Good of the order. We have now adjourned. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bowler.
So we'll be breaking for lunch, and we reconvene for the next committee meeting at, Debbie, is it? At 12:45.
I will. Is that better? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, good to go. I will call the Academic Affairs and Enrollment Management Committee meeting to order. We'll read the conflict of interest statement. It is of utmost importance to ensure that all university decisions are free from any real or perceived conflict of interest. Therefore, please be mindful of all obligations with which you have been charged as a trustee of Wright State University, and take the steps you deem appropriate to perform your duties thoroughly and impartially. Provost Edwards is not able to attend today, so Walt Branson has Sue Edwards' name in front of him. He is standing in. So Walt, I will turn it over to you, sir, for the provost report.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I am not Sue Edwards, I'm Walt Branson, so just have to make that clear. So Sue did give me her notes for her report, and so let me start with her comments. First, she does convey her apologies for not being able to be here today, and she asked me to relay her report to you for business on the agenda. The first item is the following curriculum programs were approved by Faculty Senate and Provost, and are items for the board's information. And so I need to notify you of some of the program changes that have recently been made. We have new minors, concentrations, or certificates in 4 areas. The first is theater, design, and technology, which was approved in September of 2018. We have dance, which was approved in October of 2018. Political science, which is with a new concentration in law and government, approved in October of 2018, and then a certificate in aerospace medicine approved in October of 2018. There were a couple of changes in already approved programs that she wanted to note. The first is a MS in interdisciplinary applied science and mathematics. That was approved in October 2018. The PhD was originally approved by the Board of Trustees and ODHE with the original proposal including that the awarding of a master's degree as a step towards the PhD. ODHE is now asking that Wright State submit the master's degree as a separate program. So that will go to them as a separate program. The second one was a Master's of Education in Exceptionalities. This is also a new degree within an existing program. It was approved November of 2018. The curriculum is not changing at all and has been previously approved by the Board of Trustees and ODHE, but what's been added is a non-licensure option, which should attract students not wanting to pursue teacher licenses. There were also 3 programs that were deactivated. The first is Food Systems Management, Bachelor's of Technical and Applied Studies at the Lake Campus. That the approval for that deactivation was November 2018. The second one is a Food Systems Management Certificate at the Lake Campus, also approved November of 2018. And then there was a Biological Sciences BS concentration approved November 2018. So those 3 programs have been deactivated. In addition to that, for today, we have one new program needing board approval. We have 2 emeritus statuses that we're requesting approval for. And then we have a couple of tuition discounts we're going to be asking approval for. Finally, I would like to note for Dr. Edwards that in the School of Medicine there has been a department merger, which was the merging of internal medicine and neurology into one department.
Well, thank you. At what point would you like to introduce Dr. Karen?
She comes after we do the resolutions.
Okay. Shall we start with the first resolution, which is the emeritus request?
Yes. So we have 2 emeritus faculty requests. The first is Raymond Tinike, Professor of Emergency Medicine, who served the university from 2006 in a fully affiliated and full-time status, and has requested emeritus status.
And well, I can read these.
You want to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just do,
that'd be
do the
fine.
reading, and then we'll get the
Okay.
motion to move on. Following resolution prepared by the committee for approval and recommendation to the Board of Trustees for appropriation resolution. Whereas faculty members who have served 10 or more years as fully affiliated and full-time members of Wright State University will automatically be granted the emeritus title upon retirement and upon written request by the faculty member to the provost. And whereas Raymond Tinike, Professor of Emergency Medicine, served the university from 2006 in a fully affiliated full-time status and has requested emeritus status. And whereas Arthur Gashasby, Professor of Computer Science and Engineering, served the university from 1995 in a fully affiliated full-time status and has requested emeritus status. Therefore, be it resolved that the request for emeritus status for the aforementioned faculty members as submitted to this meeting be, and same hereby are endorsed. I offer this motion to be moved to the public session. Do I have a second? Second? Or do we need to vote for that to move it? Okay, good to go. Okay, 12, over to the, tell us what the next resolution is.
Okay. We have two tuition discount resolutions to present to the committee today. The first is a tuition waiver for international students from universities approved through an MOU with the government of Andhra Pradesh, India. This is a renewal. The state requires us to renew these every 2 years. And so this was invoked 2 years ago. It is a 75% discount on the out-of-state tuition for these individuals. And it's looking forward for a continuation of that discount.
And I'm sure there would be interest in knowing how many students are affected by this. Do we know?
It's been very few so far, but these programs take multiple years to get ramped up. And so the expectation as we move along through this program is that we would increase enrollments from these students in the future.
Okay.
In the resolution, it talks about the goal is 20 students, and the actual is 15 students enrolled for 2019 for a minimum 6 graduate credit hours each. That's the top of the second page of the resolution, so that gives you some idea.
Yes, yeah, thank you. Okay, I will present the resolution. Resolution whereas 38.170 of House Bill 49 of the 132nd General Assembly requires any waiver tuition for any particular student or any class of students not otherwise permitted by law at a state-assisted institution of higher education be approved by the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education. Whereas Directive 2009, number 11, signed by the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education on April 17, 2009, established procedures for institutions to follow when requesting to waive standard tuition rates. Whereas this resolution is contingent upon the approval of the Chancellor of the Ohio Department of Higher Education. Whereas Wright State University entered into a memorandum of understanding with the government of Andhra Pradesh, India, on March 7, 2017 to provide undergraduate and graduate curricular programs. And whereas Wright State University's Board of Trustees approved a resolution authorizing a tuition waiver on April 28, 2017, and the Chancellor of the ODHE signed the tuition waiver request on July 6, 2017. Whereas the tuition waiver reduced the out-of-state surcharge by 75% for international students from the approved government universities in Andhra Pradesh, India that are listed below and included in the printed resolution available. Whereas one of the goals of the tuition reduction was to enroll at least 20 students from the listed Andhra Pradesh universities and 15 students, all in graduate programs in engineering or science or math, have registered for the 2018-19 calendar year or academic year for a minimum of 6 graduate credit hours at a minimum of combined $31,387.50 tuition reduction. And whereas it is too early to report on graduate data and specific agreements with at least 2 of the listed universities, and whereas Wright State University is requesting a renewal of the fee reduction of 75% of the out-of-state surcharge for undergraduate and graduate students from approved universities in Andhra Pradesh, India for the next Ohio biennium budget period, which is July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2021, be it resolved that the administration of the university is authorized to renew the tuition reduction of 75% of the out-of-state surcharge for the international students from approved universities in Andhra Pradesh, India for the next Ohio biennium budget period as stated above. Be it further resolved that the administration of Wright State will submit a request to the Chancellor of ODHE to review and approve the tuition education. This is being moved to the public session for approval, and I offer this motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you.
The second tuition discount, and I do need to make a modification to the resolution to add a word in a couple of places. But what this is we have a number of military students at Wright State that are associated with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. It's kind of the obvious statement of the day, but they move away. And what we would like to do is give them the opportunity to complete their degree programs, complete courses, take more courses as part of the military, wherever they may end up. And so what we propose to the committee and then to the board is a 99% out-of-state tuition discount for military personnel when they take online courses from Wright State. We think it's as we've talked earlier today about revenue sources and trying to increase those, and we believe this is one that could potentially have significant revenue for us because a number of folks pass through Wright-Patterson, they become familiar with Wright State, and then move on. We'd like to still be able to offer them coursework here. So the word I need to add is in the title where we say taking Wright State University online, add the word online courses there. And
well, can I ask a clarifying question just to make sure I understand?
Yeah.
For military members who have started a degree program at Wright State and move away, we're offering this opportunity. You made a more general statement. It sounded like any military anywhere in the world can do this. And really, is it for any, or is it for those who have started here and then moved away?
We were going to do it for any.
Okay. And let me just clarify, it's 99% of the
out-of-state portion of the surcharge, correct.
Out-of-state surcharge.
Yes.
Tuition stays the same. It's
the resident tuition.
Resident tuition stays the
correct.
same, but instead of also charging the surcharge, it's reduced by 99%. So it's still tuition generating.
Correct. Correct. And then just for the technical correction, in the first be it resolved on the second page, the next to the last line, we need to say who are also taking Wright State University online courses.
So add the word also?
No, I'll add the word online between university and courses.
Oh, online, university, I gotcha, online. Okay.
So we do, well, like I said, we do believe this is a market for us, and that it's 99% discount because the state says you have to charge something above the resident tuition for non-resident students.
Okay.
And we already, for personnel who are located in Ohio, even on a temporary basis, they are able to get the resident rate today.
Yes.
So this really is, in essence, extending the resident rate to all military.
Very good. I will present the resolution.
Can I just make a
Yes.
comment?
President Tracy.
I just would like to tie this back to the strategic plan, and one of our tier 1 projects is really expanding our partnerships with the military, and so this is one of the ways to continue to serve that very important constituent.
So Walt, it says in the resolution that this fall we have 8 active duty military students who are enrolled as out-of-state students. So we have 8 of these that are paying out-of-state tuition now, and their tuition would go down, and then the idea is to attract new students. What level of new students would you expect us to be able to attract with this action?
Well, we only have to double the number of students to break even. So I don't think we have particularly a target we're shooting for, but I think doubling is well within our reach.
So that you would want to attract 8 more.
Well, my question is, are we borrowing somebody else's business model, or does this really differentiate us in our interaction with the active duty Guard and Reserve members. Are there other universities that are doing something similar, we're just copying them? Or are we leading the way?
You know, that's a really good question. I don't have a good answer. Cheryl, do you have?
I know based on my past experience that this has not been typical for what many universities do. Although I can tell you I was a little surprised that we hadn't done that earlier, given the real commitment that we have with Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Nonetheless, it's a market that I think is very important for us to serve. And I do think that as we're able to market this and get the word out, that there will be a lot of folks who would like to take people up on it. I mean, think about it. If they're here paying in-state tuition and then they take an online course no longer here, and they're now paying about 2.5 times what they were paying before. And that's a bit of a deterrent to continue on.
That's why I asked the question about those that are here and understand the cost-effective means by which we get an education in Wright State, and they move away. You know, we've already preconditioned them to understand what they're paying for. But it's a person who lives in California, never heard of Wright State before, but now they're online, they're like, hey, I can get actually in-state tuition at Wright State as compared to all these other universities. That actually is a differentiator, and particularly if we are one of the few that's doing that.
I don't have any data to say this, but my sense is this is a differentiator for us. Nearly every state gives resident tuition, waives the non-resident portion for military personnel stationed there, but I've not heard of them going beyond that.
I would just offer that in most of the 50 years of Wright State's existence, this was not really an issue because if you were not here local, you could not take classes. However, now, with the advent of online and the growing number of online courses that are available, it really is time to do this, and there really is a market. So,
you know, I appreciate what we're trying to do here and support it, but I again come back to, you know, it seems like it would be good to have a goal, and it would be good to have some action steps to help us achieve our goal, and how are we going to market this, and what it strikes me a little bit of Field of Dreams, right? If we lower a tuition rate, they will come, and that may be true, but I just think as we try to, you know, bring our enrollment up, some things we try will work, some won't, some will work better than others, and it just strikes me we ought to have even a one-page plan around this kind of thing about here's what we're going to do, here's what we expect to get out of it, here's the action steps we're going to take, here's who's responsible for it, here's when we're going to report back. So it just seems a little, I think it's probably a good idea, but it just, I don't know, seems like we ought to have a little bit more rigor around the request.
I think it's a great idea. It does need a marketing plan, because otherwise it's going to fall flat, and you're going to be reducing your revenue because you still have 8 and you just got to get a good deal. So it really is the marketing.
okay. I will present the resolution, a tuition waiver recommendation for current military out-of-state students taking Wright State University online courses. The following resolution is presented to the committee for approval and recommendation to the board for appropriate action. Resolution, whereas the 132nd General Assembly requires any waiver of tuition for a particular student or any class of students not otherwise permitted by law at a state-assisted institution of higher education to be approved by the Chancellor of ODHE, and whereas Directive 2009-11 signed by the Chancellor of ODHE on April 17, 2009 established procedures for institutions to follow when requesting to waive standard tuition rates. And whereas this resolution is contingent upon the approval of the Chancellor of ODHE, and whereas Wright State is located next to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where Wright-Pat employees are students at Wright State, and whereas Wright State faculty collaborate with Wright-Pat in teaching and research across multiple undergraduate and graduate programs, and whereas Wright-Pat employees may later be commissioned to leave Ohio but want to study at Wright State, and whereas dependents of Wright State Wright-Pat employees who relocate may want to continue their studies at Wright State. And whereas Wright State is requesting a fee reduction of 99% off the non-Ohio resident surcharge for active duty military, including active duty reservists and active duty National Guard, who are seeking, who are taking Wright State courses as out-of-state residents. And whereas Wright State is requesting the same fee reduction of 99% of the non-Ohio resident surcharge for dependents of active duty military, including active duty reservists and active duty National Guard, who are taking Wright State courses as out-of-state residents. And whereas in fall 2018 there were 8 active duty military students who enrolled as out-of-state students, and this number is expected to increase with this tuition reduction. One of these students has an undergraduate. One of these students was an undergraduate student taking 3 credit hours, and the other 7 students were graduate students taking a total of 37 credit hours. And whereas using 2018-19 undergraduate tuition rates, the Ohio resident undergraduate student tuition rate is $394 per credit hour, and the non-Ohio resident graduate student tuition rate is $803 per credit hour, making the non-Ohio resident surcharge of $409. A 99% reduction results in adjusted tuition rate of $406 per credit hour, which is a $397 per credit hour reduction for undergraduate students. Whereas using 2018-19 graduate tuition rate, the Ohio resident graduate student tuition rate is $660 per credit hour, and the non-Ohio resident graduate student tuition rate is $1,125 per credit hour, making the non-Ohio resident surcharge of $465. A 99% reduction is an adjusted tuition rate of $664.35 per credit hour, which is a $460.65 per credit hour reduction for graduate students. And whereas using fall 2018 enrollment data, this tuition reduction request would equal $18,235, which is $1,191 for 300 graduate credit hours and $17,044 for 37 graduate credit hours. And Wright State hopes to double the number of out-of-state active duty military students in their credit hours with the tuition reduction. And whereas Wright State is requesting the tuition reduction be approved beginning in the spring of 2019 term, and be it resolved that the administration of Wright State is authorized beginning spring 2019 to offer a tuition reduction of 99% of the out-of-state resident surcharge for active duty military, including active duty reservists and active duty National Guard and their dependents who are taking Wright State University online courses as out-of-state students. Be it further resolved that the administration of Wright State University will submit a request to the Chancellor of ODHE to review and approve this tuition reduction. In order to put this on as a resolution in the public session, I offer this motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Walt, next resolution.
Okay. Bringing forward to the committee the request to approve a new program, which is a Master's of Science in Marketing, Analytics, and Insights. And since I've already exceeded my knowledge level of this, I've invited the department chair, Kendall Goodrich, to maybe make a couple of comments about the program, the need, and the rationale for doing this.
Yeah, sure. I will just make a few broad points about the opportunity out there and some of the market trends. So Deloitte had a survey of chief marketing officers this year, so in 2018 report, and they mentioned that marketing budgets dedicated to analytics are going to increase from 5.8% to 17.3% in 3 years. Also, McKinsey came out with a study saying there's a shortfall of 1.5 million data literate marketers in the U.S. And Deloitte chipped in with an earlier report, universities aren't keeping up with business demands. So those are some of the broad brush kind of things that point to there being demand in the marketplace. Were there any particular questions about the program or how it's positioned or rationale?
That's a good return. So I know that we have a graduate and undergraduate certificate in marketing analytics. Is that correct?
No, we have just an undergraduate certificate in business analytics.
Okay. Well, what's the interest level? How is that doing?
Sure. That is actually by, I think Tom Drainer might have a little information, but that's by our MIS department.
Okay.
And it's a more generic type of thing. That's why I'm pretty convinced that this program is differentiated from the rest of the programs in the state, because almost everyone's hopping on board with a business analytics MS. Even though outside of the state, there's a number of schools that are specializing in marketing analytics. You know, Northwestern, Duke, et cetera, et cetera.
So as a university, we want to position ourselves to really focus on the marketing side. Is that what this program is really?
The EAB says that as far as specialized master's programs, that's where the growth is.
Okay.
There's still some growth at MBA, but it's flattening out. But with these specialized programs, there's a lot more opportunity.
Just to add a little bit more of a broader business administration perspective, analytics isn't just related to marketing. So there's a lot of growth in marketing analytics, but also financial analytics, accounting, HR, and a number of other areas without listing them all. So analytics is sort of a broad umbrella term, you know, related to the collection of large data sets, analysis for use in a variety of different functions in business administration. So this is really just our first step, or one of our first steps, in response to our business partners. There's demand for more graduates who can handle higher levels of rigor in analytics, but they also want employees who understand the functional areas of business. So not just analysts, but analysts who can work with and speak with, you know, the marketing personnel as well as the finance personnel and accounting and HR and so forth. So the certificates that we developed at the undergraduate level are varied. For example, there's one for marketing analytics, there's another for finance analytics. We're slowly adding those, and employers are responding very well to this approach of combining analytics with the functional areas of business. But this is the first effort that we have at the graduate level for a specific master's degree program that links analytics with a functional area of business.
As an MBA student, I've taken a couple marketing classes, but
Microphone, please.
I don't have one. As an MBA student, I've taken a couple marketing classes, and I've enjoyed them. Are we creating more marketing classes to meet the demands for this degree, or are we just using our classes as we have them now and bolstering them?
They're actually in this analytics area, and they're out here already. I don't know if everyone's familiar with the double-barrel state process, or at least the older one, but we have already had a preliminary plan that already went to the state, and we got comments back. And in general, it met approval of all the universities. Even Kent State said that they wanted to potentially cooperate because they have a more generic business program. And we have a lot of online courses. So the strategy here, and we haven't been just sitting still the past year or two, is to get the intro analytics course online. And since we did that, it's tapping out at 40 per semester. So there's good demand for it. We've piloted a big data course, and we'll come up with an online version in a year. We have one that's more based on who still works in Excel here for analytics. There are probably a lot of different companies, but one of them is actually dedicated to tools that have been built out in Excel. And there's all types of things, conjoint analysis, regression, etc., and many different analytical tools. And a couple years ago, we hired a PhD in marketing analytics. And so we have this course that was piloted. He's actually finishing off the development of the online course right now, and it's being scheduled to run this spring. So that already has 20 signed up, which isn't so bad, and should get to around 30 or so.
Can I offer a real world perspective, since I dabbled in this in the commercial side? Data analytics, data scientists, it's exploding, you know, on the technical side. One of the weaknesses I see in the commercial area is we give people that have in-depth knowledge of data analytics, but not necessarily the operationalized and functional expertise to go hand in hand. So I'm actually very excited about hearing how we're marrying this up. I think we need more of that from our graduates coming out to where they'll be more useful in the business community. Thank you.
So it looks to me like you're projecting 12 students, if I'm reading this right. It's really tiny, I can barely see it. growing to 20 students. Is that more, am I reading that right? Am I right?
I have it as year 1, 15, year 4, 22. So I'm sure you hear this a lot, but it's a conservative estimate. I don't know if any of you recall, but I was here a couple years ago talking about the new entrepreneurship major. We forecast it getting up to 25 majors by the 4-year mark. We just launched it a little over a year ago. It's already at 30 majors. So I'm convinced we can overachieve that goal, but I didn't want to go overboard.
So in terms of the, you know, I see the cost analysis and so forth, but at the margin, are you adding any, does this increase the cost, or is this able to be done with existing resources? Set this analysis aside.
As far as teaching resources, facilities, etc., there won't be any additional costs. We've built in some for marketing the official launch of the program.
Okay.
Marketing the program.
The launch of the program to get the word out that the program is officially here.
Good.
So, and you kind of set it up for me. I do remember when you brought the entrepreneurship program to us. I also remember several other degrees that we've approved over the time. One in public health, and there was one in engineering. And every one of those meetings, we asked for reporting a year in, and we haven't been getting it. So I would ask, not just on this one, but on if we go back, gosh, Travis, you seem like you've been at this table with me every time we've asked. So probably 3 or 4 years, every new major that we've approved here as a board, I'd love to see what the performance has been in terms of, you know, we ask for it every time, and we don't seem to get it every time. So I would like to see that, and you could relay that on to Provost Edwards.
We can certainly do that. I do recall that we did a report with some of the recently created programs this past year, but we certainly can go back and do that and be very perhaps more deliberate and regular in reporting that out, along with reporting out those programs that are being sunsetted or deactivated. I think the board was curious about those as well.
Yeah, that was another question. I mean, it's just part of a discipline around starting new things is they're not all going to work. So how do you go back and see, you know, so I think the request always was take this a year from now and then put the actuals next to it so we can see not just on the number of students, but did it cost what we thought it was going to cost? Did it do this, that, or the other thing? Because we're going to make investments in the future, and without that type of learning, you don't know which one's paid off the best. So you don't have the learning from them you need. So I would just request that at the next Academic Affairs Committee, we can get a report on the majors that are the new programs we've approved over the last, I don't want to say 3 years, so we can see how they're all doing.
I agree, thank you. I would also strongly urge the Wright State College of Business to use your advancement professional from the development side as that general rule, maybe to reach out to industry, to interest them in this program, both to recruit their employees to come over and be a part of this, and also to ask them if they would like to help contribute to the success of it through the foundation.
Yeah, that's a great idea. One thing I didn't mention is we have a marketing advisory board, and I think I inferred at least that this whole process has taken a while, but about 1.5 to 2 years ago, we did an informal survey, and of the 7 or 8 companies that were responding from the board, we got to about 11 students annually being sent to this type of program. So that's about half the forecast already.
Sounds good. I like using the research and data analytics to examine if we should report on data analytics.
I just have a comment. I'm looking at the revenue and expenditure analysis that you have put together using faculty. And in the assumptions, it says it is assumed that each student will enroll in 30 credit hours per year over 2 terms, fall and spring. I'm just a little concerned about that. As a grad student, I would never put myself in 15 credit hours per semester. So I'm just wondering, is that realistic for this population wanting to work full time? Especially
adjusted. We were talking about fall, spring, and summer.
Okay.
30 hours when we were discussing it, so perhaps there was a little error in the preparation of the document.
Thank you. With that, I will present the resolution, Masters of Science in Marketing, Analytics, and Insights. The following resolution is before the committee for recommendation.
Microphone, please.
Sorry? Oh, board. Recommendation to the Board of Trustees for the appropriate action. Resolution, whereas Wright State is proposing a new Master of Science in Marketing, Analytics, and Insight major within the Department of Marketing in the Wright College of Business, and whereas the Master of Science in Marketing, Analytics, and Insights will provide a high-value degree to our students that addresses today's needs for marketing insights, and whereas the program will provide graduate students with a strong base in marketing strategy, consumer behavior, and especially marketing analysis and insights. And whereas the program will provide students with the fundamental skills and tools to extract and analyze marketing data and the opportunity to generate real-world interpretation, insights, and recommendations. And whereas the program has been approved by the Faculty Senate and the Provost, therefore be it resolved that the Master of Science in Marketing, Analytics, and Insights major has submitted to the meeting be and the same is hereby endorsed. I move that this resolution be put forward to the public session. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Back to you all.
Okay, so next on our agenda is Dean Karen from College of Liberal Arts.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you from the very best college at Wright State University, the College of Liberal Arts. One of the things that makes us the best college, and I can hear my colleagues behind me, but the best college, is that we like pilot programs. We like to try things and expand them if they work, and fail forward if they don't work. So I'd like to tell you about a few of our pilots, and then I'll introduce a student to talk to you about our successful mentoring program. One of our recent pilots is the Emergency Fund, a scholarship fund. We sometimes call it the Flat Tire Fund. And it's meant to help out students who are so close to the financial edge that they're one flat tire away from dropping out. We generated this fund so that we can give just a small scholarship, $500, enough to fix the tire, enough to pay the electric bill, enough to provide for some emergency medical care, and keep the student here and moving forward at Wright State. The scholarship averts disaster and shows that Wright State and the College of Liberal Arts care about their continued success. It was a successful pilot, about 30 last year, and we're continuing to do the Flat Tire Fund scholarship this year. In fact, recently the College of Liberal Arts Dean Student Advisory Board held a fundraiser for the fund that was also successful and will help us give them a little bit more money. This year we are piloting a multi-year initiative that we call Change the World. It's targeted to a typical Wright State student, often a first-generation student, frequently a modest student, somebody who needs a little boost in their self-esteem, to feel empowered to go out and make change. Students who are hungry for a purpose beyond just a job. The Change the World initiative has 3 phases: Spark, Train, and Act. So the Spark will be a team-taught freshman course showing how different disciplines can change the world and have changed the world. We're going to try that out next fall. It's meant to show our students you can be an ordinary Daytonian and still have a tremendous impact in the future. The train part of Spark Train Act is a series of courses where students are given the tools that will enable them to make change. An ACT will be the course when they go out and actually do things, have an impact on their community, generate projects, and then report back on whether or not those projects were successful. So for the pilot, we're putting together the Train Act sections of the initiative, and this coming spring we'll teach the first course called Agents of Change in our new media incubator. I have two of my most energetic, fabulous faculty members collaborating on this course, and they have students from all colleges across campus who are applying to be part of the course. We think that the ACT portion of Spark Train Act will be an important component of a new experiential learning initiative that's part of the university's strategic plan. And we're thinking that maybe the freshman course, the Spark course, might be the basis for a redefined freshman experience for a lot of our students. So we're just starting out. We have those ideas. We'll pilot them, and we'll let you know how it all went.
Linda, excuse me.
Yep.
You said you can be an ordinary Daytonian. Does this program extend to the Lake campus? Can you be an ordinary Salina?
You sure can. You can be ordinary anywhere. Yes.
Well, I didn't know if this was Dayton.
No, I don't think there's any reason why we would limit it to Dayton. So another initiative that we're working on, a recent survey of over 1,000 CEOs and hiring managers revealed that the top priorities for employees are the ability to communicate in written and verbal form, to communicate clearly and effectively, the ability to think critically, the ability to solve problems, work in teams, navigate a multicultural world. And these are all skills taught in liberal arts colleges. So we got to thinking about that and are working on developing a series of certificates that would be targeted to these skills that employers want. We're putting together courses that we already teach that would give students a credential demonstrating that they have these career advancing skills. They're certificates, so they could be awarded to existing Wright State students, or they could be taken by people who are already in the workforce, maybe want another credential, need their credentials burnished a little bit so that they can move up the ladder. Because I believe passionately that education is highly addictive. I can imagine that people would come to Wright State, take 15, 18 credit hours, and then decide that perhaps they were able to come and stay for an entire degree. So that's in the planning stages, but we're working on it and we'll pilot it soon.
Excuse me, Lynn, you just hit a hot button with me. I'm the CEO of a company that employs about 180 people, and many of whom are college graduates.
Yeah.
But we have had to initiate remedial English classes, including grammar, presentation skills. Apparently speech isn't taught anymore.
We teach it.
I'm generalizing, but not by much. Not a whole lot of new grads, and some I dare say are from Wright State. Can speak clearly, can write clearly, can make a presentation. We've hired a retired Indiana University professor named Linda Comerford, from Indiana to come in on a regular basis and tutor our kids. So this is just a broad side. So as a taxpayer, I've paid for this once through the public school system, the secondary system. Probably help pay for it again through the public college system, and now as an employer, I'm paying for it a third time because we have to. They're just not prepared. Ironically, their math skills are pretty good, and science skills are pretty good. It's this liberal arts component, and it's just appalling. Frankly, some of the high school teachers could use help too.
You're exactly mirroring the comments of the survey that was done nationally, and that's part of the reason why we think putting these courses together in a certificate that really highlights the fact that they're essential skills that everyone needs if they wish to advance makes that point. People know, oh, wait a minute, I have to be able to speak in public. I need to be able to write an email that's grammatically correct. I ought to be able to work with people who are in a different culture. We're trying to create a package so that instead of your company having to pay to have somebody do this, you could send your employees who are maybe ready to move up the ladder but not quite there yet, send them to us, and then we can help.
Great, good news.
Good. Well, a great example of a successful pilot is our mentoring program. The idea came from a conversation with a foundation board member who had hosted Wright State interns in his business and found that there were some kind of essential workplace skills and knowledge that these students didn't have. So he said, why don't we do a professional mentoring program? We said, okay. And last spring, 13 COLA students were paired with 13 community members for professional mentoring. We debriefed everybody at the end, and both the mentors and the mentees thought it was a great idea. We built the program to grow, so we have doubled it this fall with no end in sight. So I brought one of our star mentees to talk to you about the program. And this is Emma Peterson, who is a senior double major in Spanish and International Studies, also working on a French minor, and a certificate in teaching English to speakers of other languages. Despite doing all of that, she has a 4.0 GPA, and she takes classes in Chinese in her spare time. She's studied abroad in China, France, and Chile. She's been an intern in the University Center for International Education and is a President's Ambassador. She's also the co-president of my Dean Student Advisory Board, so she gets to hear about pilot projects all the time. I go and talk to the board and say, is this a good idea or is this a bad idea? And they tell me the truth, which is really good. So I've asked her to talk about her experience with her mentors last year during the pilot and during the current year.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to be here with you, Karen. So as you heard, I am a co-president of the Dean Student Advisory Board. Last year I was a member of the DSAB, and so our DSAB was a part of this great opportunity to be a part of the pilot program for the mentoring program. It was an incredible experience. I was still exploring different career options back then, and still am, and so with my mentor, we were able to meet. We met twice during the semester, and we're able to sit down and talk about my different interests, different career paths, things like that. We work on my resume and interview skills, and because of my interactions with my mentor, I was able to narrow my interests into nonprofit and also community engagements. And so that has been able to grow my skills even more. And so this year, when I got a new mentor who was in the Greene County Community Foundation, and I was able to find a mentor who better matched my interests carrying on into the future. Through my new mentor, we have met twice this semester already, and what he has been able to do is to help with networking in the Dayton community, especially to explore different paths within nonprofit management and community engagement. With my mentor, I was able to meet somebody from CareSource to talk about community engagement in that way, community education, outreach. So from that networking opportunity, I've been able to also speak with, reach out to other people in different businesses like Dayton Children's. And so with this network, I've been able to really get out into the community and meet people. I also was able to meet Hope Taft earlier this week. She is the president of the Tandana Foundation, which is a nonprofit that does work in Ecuador and Mali and works with the community leaders in these countries for whatever projects they need. And so it was a really fantastic opportunity to meet with her and to learn about her process and her journey toward doing good works and community engagement. With these networking opportunities, I have been really able to explore different careers and interests. And from what I have learned, this project or this whole program has been incredible for someone who is still exploring career options. I've been able to take my college liberal arts skills and then transfer them to future career options. I think it's a really fantastic bridge in between college to career. I've been able to network with professionals and also learn how to market my skills to a lot of different career paths. I've also been able to learn interview strategies, so when I interview for these positions in the future, I will be more confident and be able to speak and communicate. Also a way to build my resume and to sit down with somebody who is in these fields and to learn what it is that job employers are looking for and to market myself to that. I think there are many incredible benefits to this mentoring program. I've learned how to present myself and my skills, how to make contacts in the community, and learn a little bit more of what it's like outside of academia. As a student, we go to class, we do work, we focus on passing our classes and learning all that we can, and sometimes we forget what happens after graduation. And so I think this is a really great opportunity to meet with somebody who was in our degree or closely associated with it, learn what it's like for a COLA graduate to go out into the world, find a career, and make a difference. I think every person that I've spoken to who has done this, other students who have done this mentoring program, have loved the support and the guidance of their mentors as they kind of take them step by step into future careers. Thank you very much. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask me or Karen.
I'm just interested, did you always have a knack for languages?
I started learning in middle school, and so I started Spanish in middle school, and then I just loved it. And so in high school, I started French, and then in college, I just started to learn Mandarin. So I love it.
Just like that. Very impressive. Very impressive, Susan.
Yes.
Thank you.
Emma, thank you. Gracias.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. With that, without objection, we will conclude the activity.
Well, I had one thing for the good
Yes.
order of this committee, and I wish Provost Edwards was here, but yesterday I had the pleasure of attending a meeting of the Dayton Daily News Pathway Forward program, and we were received a presentation by the superintendent of the Dayton Public Schools, and also Debbie Feldman was there from Dayton Children's Hospital, and they spoke at length, very highly, I might add, about Wright State University's School of Professional Psychology and the graduates that we're producing. But they talked at great length about the lack of mental health professionals in this and every other community to deal with so much of what they deal with in the Dayton Public Schools. It was really eye-opening for me to hear of some of the issues they have with children as young as kindergarten that are struggling because of various crises in their lives and so forth. And you know, I don't know what it takes for us to expand those types of programs, but it was a very eye-opening presentation on the lack of mental health professionals being produced by the nation's universities, not just Wright State University. And that, you know, as we look at our future, and these kids that are trying to get through school, dealing with issues that frankly I never had to deal with when I was a child, I don't know that we have an answer at Wright State University, but I thought it should be talked about, because it's not that Wright State's not producing enough graduates, the nation's universities aren't producing enough mental health professionals to deal with the issues in many of our school systems, and just if you just look at the news in any given week, you can see how big an issue mental health is. So to me, it seems like an opportunity as we think about our health and healthcare education here at Wright State University. But it was a really eye-opening presentation yesterday, so I just thought I'd mention that at this meeting today.
Thank you. And I would just mention that my wife is a graduate of Wright State University, degree in biology. Her career passion was to go into clinical counseling, which she did. She's a state licensed counselor with a master's degree. However, she was not able to get that here at Wright State some years ago when she wanted it. And so maybe that's something to consider is, you know, some other not necessarily PhD level or even master's level, some other programs here at Wright State that to support exactly what you're saying, that we could take a larger role in that, since the need for that clearly is significant, not just here in the area. So thank you for that.
That's all I have.
Okay, well, without objection, I will then conclude the meeting and give back 11 minutes. Chair Becker, back to you.
So we do have an executive committee meeting scheduled to happen next, and it won't be a very long one, but it's mostly a housekeeping item. There were to be 2 items on our executive committee agenda. One, as you'll remember, is President Schrader and the strategic planning team worked their way through the strategic plan. That was going to be on our agenda today, and the initial hope is that we could move the strategic plan forward. The board and the administration work on the strategic plan with the Faculty Senate, and is particularly on mission, vision, values, and strategy, but we're interested in the feedback of the Faculty Senate. So the strategic plan did go before, I believe, Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, the Faculty Senate meeting on November 5th. The Faculty Senate decided to kind of postpone consideration of aspects of the mission and vision while the faculty labor negotiations continue. And so we feel like we should respect that from the faculty, and so we will not be talking about that today, but we're looking forward to when you can get back to that so that we can move forward. That's just an incredibly important aspect of moving our university forward, so we would like to get back to that as soon as we can. There will be continuing work done on the behind the scenes on strategic plan, metrics, and making sure we have the processes and so forth into place so that when we do get around to approving the plan, that we can move out on it smartly and start advancing the university forward. So just want to let you know we were going to consider that today, but out of respect for the Faculty Senate's process, we're going to postpone that, and we'll take that up at a later date. So that was the first item we were going to address. The second is the housekeeping item. Many folks may not know, but the Chief Legal Officer for Wright State University and all other public universities is the State of Ohio Attorney General. And we operate, as every other public university in the state of Ohio, under agreements with the Ohio Attorney General's office regarding our counsel, Larry Chan, and any associate counsels that we have. That requires us here at Wright State University to sign a memorandum of understanding with the Attorney General of Ohio, Wright State University, regarding the provision of legal services from the State Ohio Attorney General office to us. So I'm going to pass this along to Larry to explain this for the committee, because this is something that I think we need to take care of. It's my understanding that this was not something we had done in the past, not by our choice, but we just didn't get it done, and we have to get this done. So Larry, if you could take the committee through what this means, and we've all had it, so we had a chance to see it.
Thank you, Jeff Thacker. I just wanted to go over the highlights of the memorandum of understanding between the university and the Ohio Attorney General's office. And we've got before you now a copy of the memorandum of understanding between the Ohio Attorney General and Wright State University regarding the provision of legal services to the university. And briefly, this MOU just establishes guidelines for the university council, the university council's duties, the selection of the university council, compensation, and budgets of the Office of General Counsel for the university. Under the statutes, Ohio Revised Code 109.02 and Section 3345.15, the Attorney General is the Chief Legal Officer for the university, and also is tasked with the duty to provide legal representation for the university, and the Office of General Counsel does remain under the direction and control of the Attorney General, while also reporting to the Board of Trustees and to the President of the university. So, the memorandum of understanding, it's broken down into a number of general sections. The first one is about method of selection and term of office. Generally, the selection of the general counsel for a university is done through a search process and a posting, and it conforms to the normal search processes that are employed for any other employee of the university. And there is a section just briefly dealing with salaries and budget matters, which is again to be set by the university within norms that are set for all university employees. The third section deals with job responsibilities and coordination with the Attorney General's office, so that all legal business relationships that the university undertakes and all legal work that the university undertakes has to be performed through the Office of General Counsel in coordination with the Attorney General's office. And one of the duties that I'm also tasked with is to supervise litigation and oversee the appointment of outside legal counsel, which is required, again, by statute to be a firm or individual who is appointed as special counsel by the Ohio Attorney General's office and has an appointment as special counsel, as an assistant attorney general. The memorandum of understanding also provides for the addition of other attorneys within the Office of General Counsel, and then goes to the section of legal representation and settlements and appearances in courts or agencies. And again, settlements that involve the university also must be provided for the review of the Ohio Attorney General and must be approved by the Attorney General, and also appearances in court actions or agencies are also prescribed that they must be done by a member of the Ohio Attorney General's office or someone who has an appointment as an assistant attorney general. As all university counsel throughout the state of Ohio for all state universities, all general counsels for universities or associate or assistant general counsel for universities all must have appointments as assistant attorneys general for the Office of Attorney General. So there is a resolution that I will provide you with that can be presented to the board.
So first, let me ask if there's any questions regarding Larry's description of this memorandum of understanding with the Ohio Attorney General's office. CD?
Maybe I just misunderstood, Counselor, your representation of the university over time. I'm looking at, for instance, corporate agencies. It says no university legal counsel shall represent the university in court or before any administrative agency. It was my understanding that you do that on a regular basis, representing the university, before courts.
Yes, and let me correct that misunderstanding. While the university attorneys do have appointments as assistant attorneys general with the Office of Attorney General, it has been, in my experience, a requirement of each Ohio Attorney General that any appearance in a court of record must be undertaken by an assistant attorney general who is directly employed by the office of the attorney general and reports directly to the attorney general's office, either in Columbus or one of their regional offices, or as a special counsel who is appointed by the attorney general's office. I had an unfortunate circumstance in my previous institution whereby for a 5-minute appearance before a court of record where there was just a request for an extension of time to be made, which I thought I could save an assistant attorney general 2.5 hours of driving up from Columbus to make that 5-minute appearance before the court. I thought that I might be able to do that, and I was acutely reminded that I was not able to do that, and that I needed to defer that appearance to an assistant attorney general who spends 2.5 hours to drive up from Columbus to appear in the Wood County Common Pleas Court to ask for an extension that took 5 minutes, and then it took 2.5 hours for that assistant attorney general to travel back to Columbus.
Just from a layman's perspective, you still represent the university in court proceedings.
I do not. It's the pleadings that are filed in any official court of record are always signed off on by the Attorney General of the State of Ohio and an Assistant Attorney General who operates out of the Columbus headquarters or one of the regional offices of the Attorney General that exist in Cleveland, Youngstown, Toledo, and Cincinnati.
So although you're representative, you're doing it on their behalf.
I am.
Thank you.
Yes.
Any other questions? It's a brief resolution. I'll read it now. This would be a resolution that we will make a motion in a second on, but we will carry forward to public session for the board to vote on. And the resolution reads, whereas the Wright State University is a state institution of higher education established and existing under the laws of the state of Ohio, and whereas Ohio Revised Code 3345.15 provides that the Attorney General shall be the attorney for each state college and university and shall provide legal advice in all matters relating to its powers and duties. Whereas the Ohio Attorney General has memoranda of understanding with all Ohio state colleges and universities, memorializing the legal representation of all state colleges and universities. And whereas the Ohio Attorney General and the Wright State University desire to update and execute a current memorandum of understanding to memorialize the legal representation of Wright State University by the Ohio Attorney General. Now therefore be it resolved that Wright State University and the Ohio Attorney General execute a memorandum of understanding, thereby memorializing the Ohio Attorney General's relationship with and legal representation of Wright State University. To move this resolution to the public session for a vote, a motion and a second are needed. I will offer the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bridges. We will move that to public session. That concludes the executive committee agenda, unless there's anything else. So let me explain how we will spend the rest of our afternoon. As you all know, there's no shortage of issues going on at the university, so I am about to call our board into a public session, and from there we will move into an executive session to discuss pending or imminent court action and collective bargaining. There is a chance, though no certainty, that we may come back from executive session into public session to take a public action. I just want you all to know that, so that if you want to stay, if indeed we come back into public session, that you're aware that we would be thinking of doing that. But I don't know that we will. It depends on the update that we receive in the executive session. And so to call us into the public session, I will ask for a roll call. Mr. Chan.
Yes. Mr. Bridges. Mr. Fackler.
Here.
Dr. Coyle.
Here.
Mr. Montgomery.
Here.
General Moore.
Yes.
Ms. Ramos. We have 5 trustees present, and we have a quorum.
Wasn't Mr. Bridges just here?
I believe he was may have taken a rest break.
Okay. We start our public sessions with a conflict of interest statement. It is of utmost importance to ensure that all university decisions are free from any real or perceived conflicts of interest. Therefore, please be mindful of all obligations with which you have been charged as a trustee of Wright State University and take the steps you deem appropriate to perform your duties fairly and impartially. This public meeting has been called by written notification and a quorum is present. I have no announcements.
Come to mind.
In accordance with, and now we'll move to executive session. In accordance with amendments to the Ohio Open Meetings Law, the board, after a majority of a quorum and by roll call vote, determines to hold a special executive session by offering the following resolution. Resolved that the Wright State University Board of Trustees agreed to hold an executive session on Friday, November 16th, 2018, and be it further resolved that pursuant to the Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, the following issues may be discussed in executive session. Pending or imminent court action, collective bargaining. I offer this motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Bridges?
I'm present and yes.
Mr. Tucker?
Yes.
Mr. Doyle?
Yes.
Mr. Montgomery?
Yes?
General Moore?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos? Give unanimous vote for entering executive session.
Okay, we'll meet upstairs.
Executive session will convene.